Okay, welcome to this week's Streak Talk. And did it fare any better than last week's episode? Yes, I can confirm it did, only just. Although, I think for a lot of this week's episodes, I was just a little bit bored. Last week, I scored it really low because I was angry about Coronation Street, and I certainly wasn't angry this week. But I did think that Mondays and Wednesdays episodes were a little bit slow. Fortunately, there was lots of good stuff to enjoy today. And we're going to start off with the Roger the Lodger story, just because it carries on, that was the main talking point last week. It also merged with the Sharon confidential information story, so we're going to kind of chat about the Jenny and Ronnie and Daisy stuff first. Then we'll go back to everything that Sharon and Harvey and that have been getting up to, and then Jenny can just slide right in there on Friday's episode, and we'll chat about it all together. That's going to be followed by, I've called the story the Troll Over, as in, I don't know, roll over maybe?
I thought it was it's Troll Over.
Troll Over, everyone. And also Elaine's gone maybe. I don't know. Has she left? Possibly.
She certainly looked like she was making a big deal about it.
It felt like an ending. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. There's been stuff going on with Elena and Evelyn and Tyrone and Bernie this week. I've called this storyline Pop, Shop and Slipping on Slop. Yeah, I hadn't told you that before. I quite like that one. Emma's got a new guy called Curtis.
And he's going to be a doctor.
Oh, yeah. What's their shipping name? At the moment, I've got Courtesy.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Or his name is Curtis de la Mer, which I think is fantastic. So if she ends up marrying him and taking his name, then she'll be Emma de la Mer, which I think is quite cool. So maybe we can call the story Emma Dilemma. I don't know.
That sounds like a Batman character.
But she did have a bit of a dilemma this week, didn't she? Because, she was caught between Curtis and Steve, who very coincidentally was cut up by Curtis on his Tour de France trial last week or whatever it was.
So when he's called de la Mer, is that like de la sea or de la female horse?
I don't think it's either, because mare for the sea does not have an E on the end. But who knows? Well,
you've written it, you know how it's spelled.
I do know how it's spelled. It's got an E on the end.
Did you?
I looked it up.
You looked up his specific spelling?
I did.
Oh, sure enough now.
Yeah. It's from the mother, doesn't it? Which is where we're all from, really.
That's sort of goes without saying, I would have thought.
A bit literal, yeah. Then we have
I am Curtis of Woman Born. Okay, Curtis, calm down. We know you want to be a doctor.
We've got Aretha Franklin storyline warming up again this week.
That's going to be relevant next week.
Yeah, it is at last. I did a little Google search just to see if I could find a picture from next week's Coronation Street. It was a bit of a minefield. I wanted to see if I could find a picture of Aretha Franklin, and I couldn't.
Did you?
But hopefully there'll be one next week that I can tweet out.
How far into the future did you search? What's going on in, say, a decade's time?
I didn't look that far ahead, I'm afraid. Okay. And we also had a return today of the Stand and Delivered story, which is all a bit dull, I thought, but we'll leave that until last anyway, and we'll be out of steam by then. Anyway.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I don't know. As like I said, the Roger the Lodger is fairly short. And then there's the Sharon Confidential, which is a bit longer. Let me do the Roger the Lodger. Because this was the one that I started last week, didn't I? Quite in a very incensed way.
You did.
I was fairly angry. I'm glad that I did have a few people message me over the course of the week saying they enjoyed the quality and quantity of my ranting last week. I know that's usually kind of your thing, Gemma.
Well, we have to have balance, can't we? Don't we? I think if you tuned in and you heard just two people shouting at you about how much they hated the show, might be a bit much.
Yeah, you were just rather, somewhat nonplussed by the story last week, but entertained by my, how much it made me fume.
Restrained.
Yeah, but anyway, it wasn't so bad this week, I suppose.
I know, but that's not what I want from Coronation Street.
What do you want?
I don't want not so bad. I don't want the bad as last week. I want it to be good.
It got good. Both,
yeah, it did actually.
Jenny got right back on my good side this week because she was fantastic on Friday's episode. Yeah. All about Jenny Bradley on Friday. Thank you very much.
I do something naughty, not having an affair, and then I just shout at you, and you suddenly fall back in love.
And even Ronnie did his best in tonight's episode to get back into my good books because he said he preferred cats to dogs. So
Here's a question that I don't think anyone's ever considered during the great cat versus dog debate. Why not both? I've never understood this. We've always had both when I was a kid. My parents have a cat and a dog. No. Why not both?
I
suppose it's like asking, what would you rather have, money or children? You can't have both.
I wonder. We were having a bit of a debate in school this week about cats versus dogs, because we were talking about animals in French. So it was like, tu préfères les chats ou les chiens? And the children were putting their hands up, and I was saying très bien for those ones that were saying les chats.
That's rude.
So Roger the Lodger, the two Onnies are bonding at the beginning of Monday's episode.
An
Onnie, Johnny and Ronnie, the two Onnies.
Oh.
They're having a bit of a bond over, I don't know, something to do with football anyway. Daisy is watching on.
Just confused.
Well, just, very schemingly. And she admits to Ronnie that she knows all about his little roll in the hay with Jenny last week. Also, by the way, can I have some business advice, please? Because she's doing her double glamming, isn't she? And she wants to get some advice about
him.
Basically, she's blackmailing him to find out some hot business tips from this hotshot rich business
Why would
dude.
Ronnie know anything about how to shift makeup?
Well, there's just,
there's certain things
he's like Alan Sugar, isn't he? He can sell anything.
There are certain things that are universal to all businesses, like Ronnie, how do I fill out my self-employment tax return? Or Ronnie, do I have to charge VAT if my turnover is under £75,000?
It will be, Daisy.
Ronnie, can you let me know where best to sell my unisex guy liner in purple? He won't know.
I think that he had some contacts or something. I don't know. It was kind of a way in that Corey shoehorned in for this week. I thought it was fine with it. And so Jenny finds out later that Ronnie is indeed mentoring Daisy. Ronnie obviously doesn't seem that into it, but she's got him over a barrel of Newton and Ridley's, I think. And then so at the end of the episode, Jenny has a go at Ronnie and says, "What are you up to? Why are you being so pally with Daisy?" And he's like, "Well, she's blackmailing me, actually. I've got no choice." And Jenny says, "Don't worry, Ronnie, I will deal with him." She is a her. And she kind of does on Wednesday. Every time Jenny threatens to have a deal with Daisy and to give Daisy a telling off, I always feel that it comes off as a little more restrained than I'd like it to be.
That's because what you'd like
because Daisy doesn't end up dead.
It's for Jenny to just sort of beat her to death with a Lacrousette.
No, she just needs to turn round and give her a Jenny Bradley death stare that actually makes her drop dead. She needs to just a little twinkle in her eye, like she's like Medusa, isn't she? Turn her to stone. Anyway, she kind of catches Daisy.
Yeah, but don't forget, Daisy's never without a mirror in her hand, so she'd be fine.
That's very true. Yeah, very, very true indeed. Jenny catches Daisy kind of blackmailing Ronnie a bit more on Wednesday and says, "Oh, I never should have never taken you in.
You really need this concealer, Ronnie."
Jenny, to be fair to her, she does. She goes and gets Daisy's bags and brings them into the back room of the Rovers, and she chucks her out. But then flipping Daisy has her wrapped right round her little finger. Daisy doesn't appear again at all in tonight's episode, doesn't she? So because I was kind of left wondering at this point, is Daisy having Jenny on? But whether she is or not, Jenny...
I know, I saw a bit of a split opinions here. Like some people seem to think that she was completely sincere and this was all true, and other people thought it was another classic Daisy scam. So
what Daisy says, she's like, "Oh, I've got nowhere to go. I've not even spoken to my dad for years. You're the only family I've got." And she has this bit of a heart-to-heart with Jenny, and I can't tell, which is maybe for the best that I couldn't tell. But she says that after Tom died, and there's a reference, we did want Jenny and Daisy to mention Tom just last week's podcast, didn't we?
Is Jenny's
drowned baby
with Daisy's dad. So Daisy is Jenny's stepdaughter. Jenny had a baby with her dad, and then the baby died, and Jenny went crazy and left.
Yes. So, and it seems that Mr. Midgley, who doesn't have a name, I don't think, he's down as Mr. Midgley on Corripedia, and I don't remember there being a name. Maybe he's going to be brought in as
Frank is a good name.
Frank Midgley. He also went a little bit off the rails after Tom died, and she says, "Oh, it's like he resented me for being alive, and then when you left Jenny, it got worse." And Jenny is like totally sympathetic.
Well, this is all very plausible.
I know it is.
Because if you had the slightest excuse to get rid of Daisy, you might take it. Sorry, Daisy, I can't see you because I'm so sad.
Yeah.
Get lost.
Then he gets this new girlfriend, the marvellous Marina, she calls her. Then she gets pregnant. Daisy goes down exactly the pecking order again. Marina gives birth. They get married, and Jenny and Daisy is basically just pushed further and further out of the family until she's basically estranged from the whole lot of them.
Is it that you are living at your parents' house when you're 25, and they've got a baby and they don't want you there.
It could well be that, yeah.
I mean, no, fair play to anyone who lives with their parents. I think it's a great way of saving money, but you also can't get too mad when they kind of want you to leave so they can shag.
Yes. So Jenny at the end of this says, "Okay, Daisy, you can stay, but I'm keeping you on a tight leash," which I think was a phrase that they ended up getting into the script twice on Wednesday. It was a bit weird. And Daisy says, "All right, I promise not to pull any more daft stunts." So is this enough character development and motivation for Daisy for having been a massive cowbag for the past 6 months?
I'm not
convinced.
Why can't she just be a cowbag? What's wrong with being a cowbag? I manage it. I haven't got a traumatic past or a harrowing backstory. I'm just a bitch.
Did you think that she was telling the truth, or was this a lie?
It never really occurred to me to think that she wasn't telling the truth, to be honest. This also just sounds plausible. I think really the question is not so much did this happen, but rather, did Daisy actually care as much as she's saying that she does? And is she just using it as an excuse to get Jenny's sympathy? Because, sometimes bad things happen to you, and, some people, it's water off a duck's back. And I think it's definitely an argument to be made there that perhaps Daisy's a bit of a narcissist, and she might very well have decided that she was being left out of things or looked down on just because she wasn't the centre of attention 24/7.
Yeah. Oh, does this go any way to explaining, how she's been treating Johnny? Is like she's saying that when this Marina moved in on her dad, she was ousted, and she's...
Yeah, I never thought of it
and
that way.
she's saying, well, I want Jenny all to myself. I don't want Johnny
to...
not that I've had anything to do with Jenny at all the last 5 or 6 years, and in fact I was only mentioned about a week before I rocked up on the cobbles last year. But it could be, but then maybe she needed to be more explicit about it. Or maybe that would have been too obvious. I don't know.
What do you mean?
Could Jenny have said, is this why you've been so mean to Johnny? Or
the Johnny hate makes sense from that perspective, but nothing in the script sort of informs that. That's a really good call from you, but the script hasn't given us anything to indicate that's true.
No. So
if it is true, it's kind of a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I guess it could go some way to explaining her insecurities. I just almost wish that it had come a little bit sooner, because Daisy's been so awful.
Why? I don't get it.
And nasty for 6 months.
Why do you hate her so much?
She's just really, really narcissistic, as you said, is the right way.
I like a good antagonist.
She's been incredibly one-dimensional, and now maybe she's 2 millimeters thick.
Mean. I don't have a problem with her. I think she's fine.
I really wanted to like her when she came in, and I am giving her the benefit of the doubt with this. I will say, if what she says is true, and she reins it in a little bit, then fine. If this has given her a little bit of depth to character, if she can do anything other than be nasty, say, "Oh, Jenny, you and Johnny should split up," or make these snide remarks every time Ronnie and Jenny are sitting next to each other and giving these looks and going whoa, 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 and pursing her lips.
They really need to join up the dots between what she just said and why she hates Johnny.
Yeah.
I think I believe what she said. I don't believe that she was that emotionally invested, and it was more of an ego. It was more of ego damage than hurt feelings. And so I believe her, but I don't believe that she was emotionally as affected as she is claiming to be.
It really felt to me that she was just desperately trying to save herself from being thrown out.
Yeah.
Because she's got nowhere to go. But then I don't think a girl like her, I don't think it would take her too long to find somewhere else, to be honest. She just needs to go to the next bar along, go along to the Where the Arms, batter her eyelashes at someone, and there you go, she's sorted.
A girl, are you saying because she's an attractive girl and she's young?
I hadn't noticed.
Well, it's very easy to say, she'll fall on her feet because she's good looking, but she could equally fall into desperate straits just because of that very fact as well.
She's manipulative enough that she'd be able to get herself any guy she wants, a click of her fingers, I think. But maybe it's good that she decided she did want to stay at the Rovers, because she must have some sort of affection for Jenny. It's just she's expressing it in not the best ways.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very interested to see if there is any kind of character change at all. I'm not expecting a reformed character. I just want someone with a little bit of depth, because nobody in real life is 100% bitch. I'm not saying I want her to be nice. And when she first came into it and she was all fiery and minxy, I was like, this could be fun. But then when it turned out that's all she was, I got bored of it. Definitely keep this element to her character, but give her a bit of something else as well. And if all we've got is that scene, and then future scenes with Daisy and she's exactly the same as she was before, then it feels like
you're gonna quit.
It's just gone back on itself. So this is good that they've given us some character. Let's build on it now, please. So we'll come back to the Jenny stuff later. If we move on to the Sharon confidential information story, as I said,
everyone is dying for us to pick this up, because the last we saw of this story, Sam was stuck in a van.
What a naff resolution that had.
He's asleep in the van on Monday. Platts are worrying. Sharon comes round. Oh, have the police been in touch? No. Natasha texts Nick to let him know there's been no news, because she's obviously had notice by this point.
Yeah, Nick's still with Leanne and Simon at this point, isn't he?
Nick's gone off to help with the search, but he says, I don't know if I can come back until after the trial.
Go back to the hiding hole.
If I did, that would defeat the purpose of us hiding at all.
Yes, Leanne.
Sam finds some sandwiches and things.
Yes, Sharon seems to have left him some lunch.
Lovely.
And a little Trevor Bayliss wind-up radio. She's got heart in there. She doesn't want to do this. I'm just doing it for Harvey.
When you said a little Trevor Bayliss, what's Trevor Bayliss?
That's the inventor of the Clockwork Radio, Sam said. He used to do the invention spot on the Big Breakfast.
I am incredibly
Anyone else remember that?
Uncultured, because when you said Simon Bayliss, I thought you were
Trevor Bayliss.
Trevor Bayliss, I don't even know his name. And then you said I thought you were going to say like wine, like a mini wine.
No.
That would pass the time. So he's fine now. Don't worry about him. DS Podmore comes into the cabin looking for Sharon.
It's DS Bill Podmore.
What's your relationship with Harvey Gaskell? And she's like, he's my nephew. I just visited him last week. And he's like, I'm just checking all the possibilities to find out what's going on. Very suspicious, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Sharon sees Nick secretly coming home in a taxi. I mean, you've written secretly, but what?
he had his hood up.
Okay. She phones Harvey and says, right, we don't need Sam anymore. Let's get rid of him. I mean, they could have driven him into the canal, but they didn't.
No.
Because you know what? That telescope actually is quite worth quite a bit of money. I can just imagine Sam being frustrated that he was locked in. I'm surprised they didn't write this into the script. Like when they released Sam, he would have gone, I'm just so really sad because I was locked in there and it was the perfect location to be able to see Ursa Minor with that telescope.
What happened to the telescope? Did he get to keep it?
He should get to. Do you think that when you get locked in a van overnight, the police let you keep one thing from in there?
Yeah. It's like the telescope or the round-up radio.
Or the little poo that you left in the bucket.
Gross.
He's been in there overnight, Michael. We don't know.
That's true. I know from experience that 9-year-old children can't hold their toileting.
Sam also strikes me as the sort of chap who's regular.
Do you reckon? He looks like an old bran eater for breakfast, doesn't he? Yeah. No Cocoa Pops for him.
It's for my health. So, Natasha comes round, number 8, has a go at Nick and says, I can't believe that you've brought this dodginess into poor Sam's life. I know that you think that this is related to the drug stuff that's going on. Then Sam hears the van moving again. He shouts for help. There's no answers. The police come over. Natasha thinks it's bad news, but she's got to wait half an hour because there's a break. She learns about all the things she wants to buy, and I think probably Alan Titchmarsh tells her about how to make over a garden, but I don't know what was on. They say...
First, step 1, fill in the sinkhole. I think Alan Titchmarsh could make a quite nice feature out of that, couldn't he?
We've decided
a bit of crazy paving around the outside.
Pond into this giant sinkhole. So he's in hospital. He's okay. Natasha and Nick go to see him, and he says what's happened, and he is now obsessed with Weatherfield County, formed in 1888, after listening to them on the radio.
Don't give away Rick Neeland's security number, his PIN number over the podcast, Gemma. That's confidential information. Carry Harry's got all his cash in that safe, remember?
So
I wanted to go back, but I couldn't be bothered to check whether they were consistent about the date of the foundation of...
did he say 1888?
It was something like that,
I only
or
ever say that
something.
because that's when Jack the Ripper was killing people. And that's the only date I ever remember, apart from the World Wars. So this teaches me something that I think is relevant for us as podcasters. If you want to ensure the future of this show, what we need to do is kidnap a bunch of 9-year-olds and stick them in a van and play them a podcast.
We got to think about our the longevity of the podcast.
We do.
And Coronation Street does it by making storylines about teens. That's how they attract the youth to the show.
The other option is to get like a youth reporter. But I don't want to do that. I'd rather just kidnap some children.
I like that. That's good.
So,
I know why we can get some. Just saying.
Nick tells Sam he's going to go back to the hideout, says, I'll be careful. Sam and Natasha say goodbye. Nick gets into a taxi. Guess who it is? It's Character of the Week from last week. Biddo Van Man.
Biddo Van Man, he's back. I was so pleased to see him.
Yep. He says, listen, Nick, pay very close attention. I'm giving you the phone number for Harvey.
Gemma didn't get... To be fair, I hold my hands up. I also forgot because we were wondering on Wednesday, how did Leanne know Harvey's number?
So I just did an innocent tweet. How blah blah blah. How did he find the number?
How did she find
the number? Once you see on Twitter one person replies with the correct answer, you don't need to say it because I got about 20 people. Also, somebody going, which was lovely.
Oh, I hate it when we don't.
Listen, how many times on here have I explained something that I don't know if people get, or like make sure that we explain something because people might have missed it, and then would the courtesy be extended to us? No way, because we're professional podcasters and we should always know everything that's happening. Apparently. Anyway, thank you to everybody that have told us what happened
to pay
there.
more attention next week.
It's easy to
This
miss
ridiculous
these things.
storyline.
It's easy to miss these things. So he says, if Leanne and Simon don't withdraw their statements, Sam's going to go missing again, which really, is making massive assumptions about Natasha's helicopter parenting from now on. Because I really don't think that if she's going to let Sam out of her sight for the next 20 years, good luck, Sam's future boy or girlfriend. Sam's going to go missing again, and this time it's for good. So he gives him the phone number and says...
Well, he gives him a phone number and a phone, doesn't he? He's got a burner phone now, hasn't Nick? Is Harvey's phone a burner phone? Because that sounds like Ring of Fire sort of material there.
Any phone's a burner phone if you've had a Vindaloo and you stick it up there. On Wednesday, Nick tells...
I don't think they serve Vindaloo in prison.
How would you know?
I wouldn't know. I'm mentoring one of the inmates.
I think they give them curry.
I don't know, not Vindaloo though.
Well,
rolls them up.
We asked you last week if you've been inside. Oh no, we didn't. In the bonus episode, we asked
this
you.
Week.
So again, we appeal to all of our
dodgy listeners,
our ex-cons. Do they let you eat Vindaloo in prison? On Wednesday, Nick tells David about the kidnap and Beardy threat, and he doesn't know what to do about it. Then
David is a massive hanger-oner on this story, isn't he? They just occasionally throw in Jack P. Shepherd into a scene to say nothing much, really.
And he always looks like he's just kind of woken up from a nap. I don't know what Jack P. Shepherd is channeling, or if he just goes to the green room and sleeps.
I don't know, but it's an odd time when David isn't like a main character and is a side character in a Platt story. Like he's been underused this past year, hasn't he?
It is strange.
I mean, there was a story with Shona getting shot in a box and then being a nutcase, and then David...
That's stigmatising language. I've already said gone crazy and you went off the rails.
David riling up local yobbos and getting chased by them. But it really feels like David is, having a bit of a breather. I mean, fair play to him. Jack P. Shepherd has been playing a blinder these past however long he's been in it. But I need him to come back in the second half of 2021, or at least 2022 at the latest. Let's get going with the proper David story, please, Corrie. He didn't even get a nomination in the NTAs.
Can't believe it.
They get to Charlie D'Amello, for heaven's sake. I mean, come on.
What is that about, Michael?
No, I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about that, obviously.
Nick tells Leanne on the phone that he needs to stay in Coronation Street as long as possible because he doesn't want to go back to her because of Sam and it's too risky. So what does Leanne do? What's that you say? Danger. There's danger afoot. And the criminals are circling Coronation Street. Let me come and
Leanne
see
and
for
Nick
myself.
deserve to be found by these gangsters, quite frankly.
She turns up. Fair play to her, Michael. She uses the back door.
She does. She goes in through
She manages to avoid falling in the sinkhole.
Yeah, it's treacherous, that.
Turns up and she says, "I've left Simon at the hideout," which was a very Baxby thing to call it. And she's not disguised. She hasn't made any effort to sort of conceal her face.
She's just kind of looking a bit
You'd think
furtive.
during a pandemic you might wear a mask on your face that says, "I'm definitely not Leanne Battersby," or something, or maybe something really boring and political that would be good to sort of make people avoid looking at you, like women's rights. That would definitely make any goon of Harvey's just go, "Ugh, he's that." Don't you think? She says, "I was thinking of withdrawing my statement, but I need to speak to Imran first." So Imran turns up. It looks like he's also come in the back door and says, "You're nuts. Why are you doing it?" Again, stigmatising language. It's very, very bad.
He didn't say that.
No,
I
he
just
didn't
said
say.
that.
He just turned and went,
notes.
"You're nuts." He probably said something very loyally, like, "I do not advise that you return to the house." Apparently, he says to them, they can still use your original statement in court, even if you refuse to testify. But what you could do is say that your original statement was wrong, but then you might be charged with perjury. And she's like, "Oh, what do I do?" I don't understand why she doesn't phone him up and go, I'm not gonna testify in court, and let him deal with all the problems about the original statements and stuff. Because he never said you have to withdraw. Did he say you have to withdraw your original statement? Why can't she just phone Natasha up and go, "Listen, lock your bloody kid up, mate. You're causing me aggro here. Can't you bugger off back to London or something?"
Yeah. There's no gangsters in London.
The problem-solving issue here is that you're just letting Sam run around offering money to men with vans to buy their telescopes off them. I think he should go back to Stranger Danger School.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and this is when Harvey gets on the phone with Leanne. She gives him a buzz, doesn't she?
Phones
He's like,
him up.
"Ooh, what's that?"
She says, "I'm going to say my statement was wrong, but you've got to leave my family alone." And he says, "Well,
I promise."
Well, he says, "How do I know?" And she says, "We'll have to trust each other." It's like, this is dumb, honestly. Why? Really? How long have you been hiding out in your little hideout, away from your friends and family? All this dramatic, like, hair tossing, like, leaving scenes that you had, and then you buggered off, and poor old Simon's had to delete his gamer tag. And now you're like, okay, well, fine. If you nick Sam for overnight, then we're. Why doesn't anybody go to the police? This is the craziest thing. I don't understand.
She nearly did. Natasha
So
was the only one
stupid.
talking sense on Wednesday,
This was
wasn't
dumb.
she?
So she's like, "Right, we'll trust each other." And Natasha comes in because Shane has told her everything. And Nick says, "I'm so sorry, but what you're doing is for the best, and we didn't want you to find out." And Natasha says, "No way. I want the person who kidnapped my son locked up. I'm going to tell the police if you don't." Because up to this point, they didn't know that he'd been kidnapped. They just thought he was so dumb that he went into the back of a van. And so they, she's furious because she knows that her son's actually been kidnapped. Shona comes home and Nick has a go at her for spilling the beans and says she's made it worse. And so Shona goes off to confront Natasha and ask her to not tell the police. And she catches her in the police station and tries to talk her out of it.
It feels to me like that happens, not infrequently, that somebody goes to that poor desk sergeant. I thought I had a friend.
The desk sergeant is not doing a good job here, because what he needs to do is say, "Hello, how can I help you?" And they say, "I'm here to see the police." And he says, "Yes, I know. You're in a police station. What do you want?" And then he makes them write it down. The amount of times they come in and say, "Oh, I've got to tell you something." And he's like, "Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I'm not a main character. Sit down, otherwise you'll have to explain it twice and the audience will get irate." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He needs to get them to say what they actually want. You can't just walk into a police station and have a nice sit down on their little chairs.
Reading the leaflets.
Yeah, going, "Ooh, burglaries.
Drugs.
Oh.
Talk to Frank.
So she talks to Natasha, and Natasha's like, yeah, there's nothing nothing about the situation that seems off to me. And I definitely listen to a woman with brain damage when she gives me life advice about my child being kidnapped by a drug dealer.
Natasha really looked like she had her head screwed on up until this point, didn't she? Now she's like, yeah, you know what?
So Sharon talks to Shona in the pub about what's going on to get a bit more information. Natasha wants to speak to Nick alone later. She's frantic. She says, I'm going to take Sam out of school and homeschool him. You're not seeing him again, and don't try to get in touch ever again. You're no good for him. So what's in it for her? This is my question. What is in it for her? How did Shona manage to convince her? It doesn't make any sense. There's no way Shona would have convinced her to put her son's life in danger.
No, from what we've seen from Natasha so far, apart from the fact that Natasha abandoned her son for a couple of months at the beginning of this year, apart from that, we've seen that she's been a quite protective lioness sort of mother, isn't she?
Yeah, and he's her only child.
Yeah.
And he's obviously
and she's single-mothered him for the past 9-10 years.
Yeah. They've got a really deep bond, these two, and he got kidnapped overnight and had to eat sandwiches for his dinner
and breakfast
and tea, and she's just letting Shona say, oh don't tell anybody, it's a secret. Because the drug dealer says he won't kidnap him again now.
I know it's a done thing in Coronation Street if there's some kind of major crime going on to not tell the police, but Natasha's not really been in it much. I don't think she's a proper soap character yet. Yeah. She's still got an ounce of common sense.
Goody two shoes as well.
Yeah.
Where do you think Sam gets it from? Ain't from Nick, is it? It's not genetic. Right, so on Friday, this is when we pick back up with the...
What's been going on at Rovers?
The Onnies as well. Johnny is just boasting about what a great shag he had last night in front of Jenny. Good job it was with her. He's just spread out on the sofa with his dressing gown on, feeling very pleased with himself. Ronnie comes in and Jenny tries to get rid of him, but he's, Johnny's invited him to stay, so there's nothing she can really do. And she says, I think Johnny's gone by this point.
Johnny leaves.
And Jenny says to Ronnie that...
I think Johnny has to leave because she's like, you remember that thing that we did last week?
Wink, wink.
Daisy knows. But I've had words, so it's fine.
You need to leave.
Yes.
Give me some space. Sharon tells Gemma that she's going home because her business partner needs her, and she's like, my work here is done. Because she thinks everything's fine and hunky-dory now that Harvey has got his way and she can return to her normal life of, I guess, drug dealing.
And her little dog, which she's apparently got.
She can bring her dog with her. Ask Elaine.
Yeah.
Gemma says, you need her goodbye lunch in the Rovers. So she goes to prison. No, she doesn't. I thought she was on the phone.
No, she goes to see Harvey.
She tells Harvey.
She goes and sees him.
The mission was successful. I'm going back home. And he says, no, you're not. You got to wait till the trial. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to get 16 years inside. So you got to make sure that it does. So she turns up to the pub and Jenny's like super thrilled and she's got a bucket of champagne ready to celebrate. Sharon buggering off. And she says, guess what? I'm not going anywhere.
Jenny's brilliant. From this point onwards, Jenny was just prime Bradley. I loved it. And she's one of my favourite characters anyway. But
this was
everything from this point onwards, absolutely adored. And even in this scene where you could tell that she was like smiling through gritted teeth behind that face mask when Sharon's like, actually, I'm not going. And Jenny's like, oh, how wonderful.
This was an excellent demonstration of like the talent of the actors in this scene. And also most of the other scenes where they've managed to sort of portray very complex emotions with just their eyes.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
Is it Tyra Banks? Is she Tyra Banks? Is she that famous model? She'd be proud. Is she the one that says you've got smize?
I don't know what on earth you're talking about.
Smize, Michael. Can you see I'm doing it to you now?
No.
It's smiling with your eyes.
Oh, okay.
Smize. So Jenny smizes at her, but she's secretly mad. So she gets left alone with Sharon later, and Jenny says, right, what's really going on? And Sharon says, actually, I lied she doesn't explain why she lied. She says, Ruta just loves me being here. And I didn't want to tell you that why.
Yeah, because she comes in, so when she comes into the Rovers and says, I'm not actually going, she's her excuse at that point is her business partner has decided that she doesn't actually need her back, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my business partner is fine, but actually secretly don't tell anybody, but Rita is enjoying my company.
And that didn't make
Rita's
sense.
like, don't tell anybody because you're really cramping my style. I want everyone to think I'm a lonely old woman. Because actually that makes sense, because then she doesn't get the vodka tonic sent over from Jenny.
Very true.
Johnny comes in. Oh, it's you, Sharon. I recognise you. I don't know where from. Guess what? I'm in remission.
Sharon's obviously been doing some very excellent loitering this past week, because Johnny's been out of prison for a week and a half now, and today was the first day that he's seen her. So her lurking in the shadows must have paid off well.
Treat. Jenny sees Ronnie schmoozing with Sharon in the bistro later. Does not like this because she's there to have a lovely meal with Johnny to celebrate his remission, and he suddenly says, "I know where I've seen you, prison." And I thought this was I think this is an ex-con faux pas. I think that once you've been in prison, if you recognise someone from prison, you don't say it out loud, especially in public. I think there's probably like a special nod or a wink that you do.
Johnny wasn't in long enough to pick up all the
lingo,
social etiquette around that.
It's like when you're not supposed to ask what you're in for, because that's a faux pas too. And I guess the difference between making one on the inside and on the outside is that you don't get your head flushed down the toilet. If you... so anyway, yeah, I recognise you from... You've moved it, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, he says you've been in prison, and she's like, yes, I mentor.
I was mentoring. I've got a phone call. I'm leaving, which was actually Harvey. So Johnny says, I think she's lying because I don't remember there being a mentoring scheme. And I was thinking, this is such a dumb thing as well, because it's like somebody telling me that they go to your school to read to the children at lunchtime, and me going, that sounds legit. And then mentioning it to you, and you going, no, that...
No, we're not allowed parents in
at the moment, illegal. COVID. So anyway, Highfield, so Jenny confronts Sharon. She goes outside, and Sharon's like, okay, Harvey. And she says, you're lying. Highfield doesn't do a mentor scheme. What are you up to?
I loved how they called it Highfield like 2 or 3 times today. And in the bonus episode of the podcast all about prisons that we've already recorded, I think one of the things we say is, we know it's called Highfield Prison, but they never actually call it that on screen. We just got that from Coropedia, and today they did mention it.
Sometimes I'm convinced that our podcast gets broadcast directly into some of the writers' brains, so they hear
wish.
And then they say, well, screw them, I'm going to like a pair of idiots. So, what are you up to? And Sharon says, you can talk, you're Alan Bradley's daughter, bye.
Yeah, she just says, I'm not telling you, sod off, I don't need to answer to you, missus.
Yeah. Ronnie comes out and says, you should rise above it. Jenny doesn't. Good for you. She asked Gary to do some snooping.
Jenny's on the case.
Yeah, she's Detective Jenny Bradley, LTV's latest detective with a grisly past and a
fabulous
arched
haircut.
Eyebrow. So she says, can you find out about this Harvey guy?
Gary.
Yeah. Are there any links to Sharon Bentley? But to be fair, though, Gary's detective work involves exactly what she could have done, which is going on Instagram, as far as I can tell. We'll find out about that in a minute, though. Ronnie goes after Sharon, saying, are you all right? We were getting on really well. And she goes, no, I'm not interested in you. Go. And she leaves. Ronnie goes back to the pub and says, I asked Sharon and she wouldn't tell me anything. And I know that you're annoyed by her. And Jenny says, well, anyway, thank you for trying. Then Jenny has another confrontation in the street with Sharon.
This was brilliant.
Who's trying to scuttle off home with a Savoy for Rita, she says. And Jenny's kind of asking her all these questions. And Sharon says, you can talk. I could see you and Ronnie. You've been together.
Yeah, well, she mentioned
out.
something like, your boyfriend came over to see me earlier.
You better keep your nose out unless you want me to tell everybody what your secret is. And Jenny's like,
Jenny was caught on the back foot there, wasn't she? She was definitely, she was the one. Oh, what's the phrase? I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Confronting her?
Yeah, she was winning the argument, basically, wasn't she?
Suddenly. Yeah. She did a judo flip.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was
really
brilliant.
good. I really like Jenny and Sharon arguments because they're both so quick and fiery. They're both really fun to watch as actresses. They've both got these really great facial expressions, and I just also love this kind of like Rita's heritage of this fiery, no nonsense taking lady who has Barneys in the street, just kind of like being transmitted through the fostering system.
One of the things that Sharon was saying was like, "Oh, whatever happens, I got there first." Or
Yeah,
something,
I know,
which is
the jealousy and the rivalry between these two foster daughters for Rita is really
This
funny.
is what I wanted to see.
Yeah,
when I knew that Tracy was going back to the street. Tracy Bennett.
Gary returns to see Jenny. He's got some screenshots from Harvey's socials. Guess what? He's only going to put a picture of himself and Sharon on Instagram. I wonder what the hashtags were. Hashtag drug dealing. Hashtag DM me. Jenny gets Rita round somehow. I don't
round the back.
She comes round the back. No, I mean it's. Well, I just feel like I don't see Rita in that set very much.
No reason that she's been in there. But she sneaks in after dark to get a couple of bodies. Take
a few tots and fill it back up with water and hope that the old, weights and measures people don't come around, because that's always a risk.
It was great to see Rita again, because she had been like severely underused since Sharon has come back. She was there for her first couple of episodes, wasn't she? And ever since then, it's been Sharon in the cabin with Rita, upstairs or something. So it was nice to see Rita again, although I was a little bit disappointed with how trusting and blind and naive Rita was when Jenny confronts her with what she's just discovered about her.
To be fair, this was a thing. This is the thing that annoys me in TV shows, and it happens quite often when somebody needs to convince somebody else of sort of a shocking thing to get them on their side, and they just do an absolute mess of it. Rita comes in, and Jenny's like, "Oh, guess what? Harvey is a criminal, and Sharon is his aunt." And
she says Sharon's nephew's a drug dealer.
I know, and Rita's like, so what? I knew that she was from a rough family when I adopted her. Same with you. Your dad tried to kill me. What are we doing here?
But Jenny doesn't really try very hard to convince her, is what you were saying.
She just kind of goes, oh, okay, well, if you're not going to get mad about it. She doesn't tell her why to get mad about it, because, to be honest, actually, Jenny doesn't really know why either.
No,
she just doesn't like Sharon.
I don't think that everything that Harvey's been up to is common knowledge on the street, is it?
No, because Jenny's got no way of finding out that that Nick and Leanne are in hiding. Because, number one, they've been running around the street all week. And also, I don't know whether it's common knowledge that Sam was kidnapped, and it certainly isn't common knowledge that Leanne and Nick are going to testify against Harvey in a trial. I don't know what they know about Harvey at all.
No. Although also, I mean, the Platts have been very loose-lipped about the whole thing, haven't they? So it wouldn't surprise me if Gail hasn't come in and told someone else or Shona, yeah.
So anyway, Rita's like, whatever. Maybe she didn't mention that she had a drug-dealing nephew because she was ashamed of it. See you later. So Rita goes home and says, guess what? I know about your nephew. And Sharon's like, oh, what do you know? What do you know about it? And Rita says, don't worry about it. Every family's got their skeletons. And Sharon says, who told you? And then she looks at the roses and goes, I know who told you. And then what? The whole thing...
Then they go inside.
Yeah, but the whole episode ends with Rita saying something philosophical.
I don't remember what it is.
Like, oh well. I want to say one thing about this week.
I think I know what you're going to say. Go for it.
Really?
You're going to talk about the ends of scenes.
Many scenes this week ended in a really abrupt and bizarre way.
Yeah, it was noticeable, wasn't it?
I don't know what was going on, whether there was something different with the editing or it wasn't all the same director.
Yeah, were they snipping something to save time or something?
Suddenly just went, that's the end of that scene, next scene.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, the way that scenes conclude, but when that sort of cue to the viewer that they're about to stop watching something happen and something new is going to happen, when that's missing, it really kind of gets you on the back foot. I don't know if other people notice this or it was just me.
No, I know. I mean, I might not have noticed it if you hadn't mentioned it, but once you had mentioned it, then I was spotting it too.
Yeah, because whenever a scene ends in a really weird way, I always go, Anyway.
End of scene. Well, it's the same as when they have two characters speaking on the phone and they finish their conversation and then they just put the phone down without saying goodbye. Nobody ever says goodbye on the phone in Coronation Street. Has anyone else noticed that?
Yeah, but...
And usually when they do that, we're watching it and go, bye!
Yeah, we will. But my counter-argument to what you just said, though, I don't want to watch the equivalent of like 20 minutes a year of people going, bye then.
Bye.
Hi there. Hi, Harvey. Yeah, so they're not going to testify. Just to let you know. Oh, you want me to stay here? Okay. All right, well, it's nice talking to you. Okay, bye. No, you put the phone down. Okay, bye. All right then. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I will. Okay. Yeah, you too. Yeah, love you. Okay, bye. Okay. Oh, yep. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't speak to her. Anyway, I'll see you later. I've got to go now. Sorry, Harvey. Sorry, I've got to go. Harvey. Bye-bye. See you later. Okay, Harvey. Bye. Okay, bye.
I think I know why Harvey doesn't want to put the phone down. He's just delaying the inevitable, isn't he?
Far too many references to this.
So rude. Is that our fault? I don't know where this even came from. It's been a podcast thing for a long time. Anyway, yeah, really great stuff towards the end of the week. This was Jenny back on fine form, I have to say, and I really, really hope it carries on till next week. Now, obviously, next week's Coronation Street is the 9 p.m. Not Britain's Got Talent week, isn't it? It's the Masked Singer final week.
Are you trying to suggest that Britain doesn't have talent anymore?
Not this year.
Oh.
It needs to cover itself in a mask. But yeah, so it feels like surely this is going to come to some kind of head, some kind of conclusion next week, and I hope that Jenny carries on, and I'd love it if she was the one that cracked the case. Jenny, even though she doesn't really deserve to be fair, because she's been not very much to do with this storyline up until today, really.
Jenny with a purpose is fun to watch when she's got bee in her bonnet, especially when she's got a grudge. Because really, she hasn't quite put everything together yet about why this is such a big deal that Harvey is Sharon's nephew.
Mm.
I'm just wondering whether we're missing something here about what's going on. But I'm fairly sure that Nick and Leanne have kept this really secret, as far as you can have a secret on a soap that you tell everybody about.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, I guess it will just get out and get to them next week. I don't really know how, but I don't think it particularly matters either way. But I expect that, that this link's going to be made more common knowledge. And
I mean, once it comes out,
I'm kind of sad in a way that we could be soon saying goodbye to Sharon.
Yeah, because once this comes out, they're all going to know who has been meddling and who arranged for Sam to be kidnapped, etc., etc. Why she's been hanging around and asking all these questions.
To be fair, somebody should have picked up on that so far, because she's not been particularly subtle about it, has she?
No.
So that's going to come out, and exciting stuff. But if we had, how long's she been in it now? 4 weeks or so, maybe. Sharon, it kind of felt to me, and maybe I was just hoping that her stint would last a little bit longer, but I suppose she could still hang around for a little bit. I don't think I really want her to be rehabilitated like Debbie was, because then it'd feel like a bit of a cop-out. It's sad that she can't be, because I would love for her to stay. But yeah, I think it's going to be, we'll be saying ta-ra chuck to Sharon fairly soon, unfortunately. How did you find about how Jenny found out with the socials thing? I was expecting Gary to do a bit of research and say, there's a guy in there called Harvey Gaskell, and somebody would make the link with the surname. I think that was
really weird that he just went, yeah, Jenny, because Jenny knows how to use the internet.
I think he say that he
knows him from inside, and somehow this is the thing, right? He obviously knows Harvey, so he knows what he looks like. But how did he find, unless his name's like at Harvey Druggy or something, how did he find him on Instagram? Do they sit around in prison and go, yeah, man, what's your like Instagram? Because I'll follow you.
When I get out.
But you got to follow. No, I'll follow you on my bum phone. You follow me back.
Yeah.
I like all your posts.
They need to wait till they get out.
I like all your posts. You like mine. Otherwise, what's the point?
No, I think they might have explained it. I can't remember. But I think it would have been better if he'd have said, there is somebody called Harvey in there. He's called Harvey Gaskell. And Jenny goes, Gaskell, hang on a minute.
That would have made more sense.
But, this is the 21st century, and it's all about the socials.
That makes sense. Days. I'll look it up on Instagram. Oh, my God. Now I know where she gets her hair done.
So that was quite cool. But I wonder then, I suppose what could happen is because Sharon also has Jenny over a barrel over this whole Ronnie situation, if she's the one that finds out, is she not going to be able to say anything about it because she knows that Sharon's got this loaded gun?
This is probably the only reason that Ronnie and Jenny even got together.
I think you're right,
Sharon. But the thing is, though, this is a really weak link because Sharon literally looked at them in a bistro, or where did she see them?
Yeah, it was in the bistro.
And went, they've shagged. What, has she got some kind of secret radar or something?
She is. She's the most perceptive person on the street, isn't she?
It's nonsense, really, because she has no evidence.
And nobody else has noticed.
And if Sharon was to say to Johnny, well, guess what? I know that I've just been outed as a child kidnapper, but your wife's been sleeping with Ronnie. Jenny could just say, well, of course she's lying.
It was kind of a shame that Jenny wasn't able to say, no, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. But I think because she felt that she was winning in this argument, and then it came out of nowhere, she didn't have time to come back with a snappy retort.
But she didn't admit to it.
No, but she gave a look that said enough, I think.
I know, but that's still not evidence.
And she didn't strongly deny it either.
No, I know, but that's still not enough evidence. Like, if somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, yeah, your husband's been sleeping with his TA because I saw them look at each other," I'd say that's enough evidence to the divorce courts immediately.
And Johnny is spectacularly blind about all the many, many looks that Jenny, Ronnie and Daisy are giving each other.
Insensitive thing to say.
Oh, sorry, MS.
Can't believe you said that.
Yeah, maybe that's but he's in remission, I thought. No, he hasn't noticed that. But
so this is all building up to something that's gonna big week that's gonna happen next week.
I think then that Jenny is going to not going to be able to say something. It's going to come out about her and Ronnie one way or the other, because these things always do. So as juicy as this has made it, I still don't really feel that sacrificing Jenny and Johnny has been worth it for this storyline, sadly, because I don't know whether they'll be able to come back from this.
You could tell that the relationship was doomed when Johnny today went, "I'm having the best time of my life being your husband. What a great night we had together. This is literally the best time of my life." Yeah,
the writing's on the wall, isn't it?
Yeah, this is why I'm always pessimistic about everything, and I always say everything's rubbish because I'm scared of a big soap week coming up for me.
What did you reckon to all the rest of it with Sam and Leanne and Nick and everything? I'm finding myself surprisingly ungripped by it. It should be exciting, but there's just something about it that's making me think this is a bit hokey.
Acting like they've got no brain in their heads. They're like, if they were sort of intelligently struggling against some super brain nefarious team of organised villains, it might be a bit concerning, but they're just bumbling around. Literally all of them are bumbling around, and the only person who's trying to do any sort of planning is Harvey, and he's stuck in prison and he can just only phone people. He's the scariest one in the whole thing, and he's in prison. That, number one, is a weakness of the story. Sharon is she's a clever lady, and she's got her goons and stuff. She's not a physically intimidating person, but the threat here is a physical threat, isn't it? This is the issue. Whatever's going to happen is going to be some kind of physical threat to the safety of, say, Leanne, Nick, Sam, Simon, all of these people that are involved here. It's not going to be Sharon doing it. So it's not going to be Harvey, because Harvey's in prison. Who's it going to be?
Beardo Van Man.
Beardo Van Man, who is an undeveloped character that we don't know if he's scary or not. Do you see what I'm saying? The villain is sort of a nebulous entity that's spread over several different characters, all of whom have massive major flaws. Beardo Van Man, completely undeveloped person. We don't know anything about his motivations. We don't know, you know, somebody could give him 50 quid and he'd go away for all we know. Sharon, she couldn't snap a twig.
I can imagine if somebody gave him 50 quid. You know, like when ladies get money, they shove it down their bra.
Yeah, we do,
He's just going to bury it in his beard.
He'd just squirrel it away.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a squirrel that lives there and it'll go, thanks very much. Just take
Maybe a
it.
red squirrel, of course.
Of course, completely camouflaged. And
He's like Mr. Twit. He's got all bits of food and everything in there.
And then Harvey, who is, you know, disabled by the fact that he's in prison.
Yeah.
So who's going to be the enemy? Who's the baddie?
We were kind of led to believe before though that he's got a much stronger network of goons. Like it just felt a lot more exciting, you know, 2 months ago when Jacob was around and they were all kind of crashing in Leanne's flat. There was that guy, wasn't there, that came in and lived in Leanne's flat for a couple of days.
Yeah, I know, but this is what I'm saying. Why have they diluted the yob over so many different characters? Because there was also the man that beat them up in the hospital. That was a different.
Yeah.
Why have we had 3 anonymous goons when we could have had one really strong, well developed? Think of Sharon. Think of Sharon, who was what's his face's Rick's henchwoman.
Oh, other Sharon. Yeah.
Original Sharon.
They're saying dodgy about Sharons and Weatherfield.
Don't trust a Sharon and Weatherfield.
No.
But listen, wasn't Sharon a developed goon?
A bit more of one. In
If
that
Sharon
she
was
kind of
coming
cared
after
about
you-
Kelly's education.
She cared about the education, but you also knew that she was being paid. You knew that she didn't care. You knew that she was ruthless. You knew that she knew exactly what was going on in the organisation and she was completely 100% behind it. She had a personality and she had her own kind of... she didn't really have a story, but you could see what she was about. None of these goons have anything about them. So what's going to happen next week, I have no idea.
The problem I have with it a little bit still is, like, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, it'll be all right.
It will be
Nick
all right.
and Leanne and Sam will move back to the street again soon, and Simon, I mean, or maybe Sam as well, because, I mean, we're left at the moment with Natasha saying to Nick, you're never going to see Sam again, and it almost felt to me like she sealed her own fate with that. We said at the beginning of the year that we think that something's going to happen to Natasha.
Die.
We suggested at one point she was going to impale herself on the Millennium Dome and a trip to London or something, didn't we? But
It's not called that anymore.
Maybe. Sure, she's going to be gasping for O2 at the O2. Yeah, I can't see at this point how she should forgive Nick. Although, to be honest, people do forgive each other a lot worse in Coronation Street. But she seems mostly to have her head screwed on. Is she going to fall victim to Harvey and Sam's going to have to live with Nick? It seems very convenient. And Natasha, I don't think... I mean, she's kind of superfluous and...
Bless her.
Yeah, I know.
Listen, so
She
Natasha
her days could
delivered
be numbered.
her ultimatum this week, and I don't know who was convinced, because I wasn't, you weren't. You know, by our reckoning, this was either just a very empty threat, because you know that, you know, Nick's going to be, you know, playing chess with Sam in a month's time, or this was sealing the deal kind of a threat. By which she was saying, the only thing standing between you and your son is me. So, there you go, writers.
I wonder, though, like, is it too soon after Seb for another character to die?
I don't think people with the best will in the world care about Natasha. And she's come back, but she hasn't... It doesn't feel like she's come back as a character. It feels like she's come back as a plot device.
I think that a lot of people like Natasha.
I like her, but she's not... Do you see what I'm saying? She's not a character. She doesn't feel like she's been brought back as a character in her own right.
She's there to get in between Nick and his son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week, you know... the big week that's been planned that we don't know anything about.
No, I know maybe one thing about next week.
In a way, it's a spoiler to even say it's a big week, because there's certainly nothing indicated in any of the stuff that's happened this week that something big's going to happen next week. Even the ending was very low key. There was no cliffhanger on Friday.
Yeah, sometimes on the Friday episode before the Britain's Got Talent week, they have a massive cliffhanger or like a trailer or something. I always remember
released a trailer.
Yeah, there was a trailer, but I remember like there was one year when Paula Lane had been off on maternity leave, and then at the very end of the Friday before episode, she's there kind of loitering. I think it was the Victoria Fire episode, and she's there loitering. It's like, Kylie's back, and then they went straight into a trailer before they did the closing.
Okay.
So yeah, they didn't have any of that this week. But I think people kind of know that there's something big happening.
Yeah, but what I'm
next
saying
week,
is, what's your predictions based on this? Like, have Leanne and Nick gone back to the hideout? Or are they?
Yes,
because Nick says I'm not going back, and then Natasha's. I mean, I can think of something horrific that could happen, really dark and unpleasant to watch.
What?
Natasha homeschooling Sam for a week. I think that'd be harrowing.
I thought she doesn't need to. She's got Daniel to do it now, hasn't she?
You don't need to teach that kid a thing. Just give him an encyclopedia and leave him alone.
Yeah. Lock him in a van, he'd be fine with a wind-up
Lock him in a van
radio
with
and a packet of sandwiches.
And a bucket. So this is what my problem is. I'm not really... I think as a villain, Sharon is too cerebral to be a physical threat.
She's not menacing. She's not had to menace anyone yet. Because all of her
skills are in manipulation and observation, and you can't.
She also knows how to send messages on games consoles now. Yeah. Her skill set is improving all the time.
But you can't build a big action week out of those traits.
Yeah,
like a week of Sharon looking at people and going, I know what you have for breakfast.
Old brand Sam. Okay. Well, just before we move on, what was that thing about Sam being obsessed with Weddy County about?
What's that going to turn into?
Where did that go? And Nick going, I'm good friends with Buzz of the Bee, actually.
Can't he say something like, did you know that James Bailey lives down this street?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Literally, you can look out of the window and see James Bailey's house.
And then they show them looking out the window, and then James is in the window going, football, waving.
Mm. What about that Tommy Orpington, though? He's he's 8 goals away from being the best footballer ever or something. I don't know.
Isn't he more like 8 weeks away from retiring permanently? Because I think he's a bit old for a footballer now.
Tommy Orpington used to be on the character the character list on the ITV website, but no, I'd be happy to never see him again.
What?
Rubbish.
He was on a calendar.
I know.
He was Rick Neelan's favourite player.
It's the centrefold.
No,
2019 calendar.
They're not called the centrefold in football.
What are they called?
Striker.
Anyway, that was weird. I don't think that Sam would actually like football, but maybe I'm just projecting myself.
No, I think that there's definitely an element of sports fans who are obsessed with facts and figures and numbers. And if I can imagine Roy doing it, I can imagine Sam doing it. And I can imagine Roy standing there with his thermos flask going, oh, well, there's no way they're going to win because based on my calculations and due to the fact that Tommy Orpington had an ankle injury this time 6 months ago and the rain humidity is...
I know, I can't. I can see Roy learning facts about Weatherfield County if he had to go along to a match, but I can't see him getting into it at all. And I would probably say the same about Sam.
Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome.
Right, let's move on to the next story. This trolling story.
The only way to solve this is to do an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
A scientific experiment.
What?
Where we
Sam's interested.
Lock you in a van overnight and play you the radio with football results on it, and then let you out and see if you come out and go, I love football, Tommy O. For the win. No,
you need to lock me up in a van and play me a Wolford Weekly podcast and see if I come back saying, I've got to watch EastEnders.
EastEnders podcast. We should do that. It's great.
Right, what's going on at Kathy's house then? Well, Kathy has got her exercise bike that she was ordering last week. She's having a whale of a time on this, and not only that, but she's ordered a trio of yoga mats as well, so the ladies can all do their downward dogs together. Elaine quite likes that idea, actually. Alia comes home because, yes, she lives there, everybody remember, with Ryan.
Also, don't forget that in Tim and Sally's house, Gary's living with them.
Yeah, apparently so. We were looking after tonight's episode about, are Sarah and Adam back together? Kind of forgot. Yes, they are, if anyone's wondering. And maybe it's obvious, but Adam and Sarah are back together again, and they're living in the Red Bank apartments. which is the ones above the barbers.
Why are they bothering when they could just live in the Platt's house with everybody else?
live in Yasmin's house. They did make a funny joke about the fact that there were so many of them living there this week. They were like saying, what should we do with the mouse? Shall we invite it to stay or something like that?
Have you ever seen those I think they're in Japan, where they've got these fancy underground bicycle storage systems where it's like a massive like cylindrical hole, and you put your bike in it, and then the computer like takes the bike and it goes underground with it, and it kind of files it away in this like big elaborate bike library.
Sounds very Minority Report.
That's what they've got in the sinkhole. It's just literally all the characters just kind of in cryostasis, and then they just kind of like the big the writing grab handle comes down and goes and takes them out.
Maybe, who knows? Anyway, Yasmin just wants a precious moment of solitude. So because she's been kind of ironic, because she's been lonely all this time and felt trapped in the house with Jeff, and now she's actually living with her mates. She realises it's not all it's cracked up to be. But they have a bit of drama on Monday. There is a mouse in the house. What are they going to do? Stand on some chairs and scream, it looks like, until Ryan comes home. Surely this big buff Ryan will deal with it. But no, he's also scared of mice, so he makes a hasty exit. Elaine wants to kill the mouse, but Yasmin says maybe we should get a mouse catcher. They borrow Doggy Dave for a bit, but all he can manage to do is wee on the carpet. I was very disappointed, well, many things about this story, but we didn't get to see a mouse or a dog. We had to use our imaginations. They could have got a mouse.
No.
Couldn't they?
How could they have got a mouse? They would have run away.
You get a stunt mouse. You
wanted
get a specially TB-trained mouse.
I suppose if you got
a mouse, stick it on the studio floor.
I suppose if you got a field mouse, there'd be some kind of union problem.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to have the mice that are in the acting union, otherwise you're going to get a fine.
No, I just thought it was lazy to not get an actual mouse.
Because usually when you have a scene like this, you'll have like a zoom-in camera
They'd get
of a mouse
stock
going,
footage of a mouse.
On telly?
Yeah. You just get some stock mouse footage, don't you? Of it twitching its nose or something. And you just had to deal with these women pointing at a corner and while hoping they're all pointing at the same place, and then telling us that David came round the dog and weed on the carpet.
You want to see a dog urinating on a carpet?
Yes.
You think that would be prime Monday entertainment?
Look, all I'm saying is that when there was a tarantula, a wolf-eating spider or whatever it was, loose on the Rovers...
Wolf-eating spider?
I can't remember, it was something like that it was called.
I would not want to see one of those in the dark. A wolf-eating spider.
It was a Mexican wolf-eating spider, I'm sure. But when that was loose in the Rovers' kitchen and the health inspector came round and Alec was kind of hiding, we saw the spider creepy crawling around.
It's easier to
that was one of my
spider.
favourite scenes from that era, Alec and the spider in the Rovers' kitchen. And we just needed a few little spidery scenes. We didn't need to see the spider getting crushed under Alec's hand because Roy Barrowcroft did an excellent job of acting like he was crushing it.
Also, I don't want to see a poor little...
I needed to see the mouse. I was disappointed, that's all I'm saying. Anyway.
It's called a wolf spider, not a wolf-eating spider.
Oh, close enough. Elaine blames Kathy's slovenly ways for the infestation.
One mouse.
I don't really get why. She's buying a load of stuff on Amazon. And so that attracts mice.
I've said this before. She subscribes to the medieval idea of how life is formed, in which you get a barn and you stick some food and bedding in it, and then a mouse
that's what they used to think, isn't it?
will actually just appear.
Yeah. I thought that you were going to say she subscribed to Sean Wilson's Cheese of the Week Club. Every week Martin Platt comes back with a new cheese and the mice just led in like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Anyway, Wednesday, Ryan has caught the mouse, by the way.
I don't get this.
He's grown a pair.
But he goes to the Red Wreck and drops it off.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we're doing wrong. Whenever Abby brings a mouse
I do think you are supposed to take
we
them
just put it outside the front door and then wonder why it comes back again a few days later.
You're supposed to drop them all very, very far away because they will come back.
But we'll miss its mousy family.
Like, yeah. I took it to the Red Wreck, and Kathy's like, "Oh, that's good. Yeah, bloody loved it. We're going to go to the zoo tomorrow."
When we go bug catching with the children on the common, we say you've got to make sure that when you caught your little shield bug, that's a stink bug, Americans, you go and put it back exactly where it came from, where it's in its natural habitat and its family. So poor mouse.
Do you think that the little shield bug mum is going, where's Jeffrey?
Yeah. If you don't, then they kick up a right stink. So, anyway, the mouse issue has been resolved.
This was silly because I didn't like the way that these 3 grown women could not cope with. Is being scared of mice like a...
Well, they said, we look like some kind of 60s postcard, didn't we? But it was not as funny as it thought it was, in my opinion.
Because all 3 of these women are very intelligent and quite capable and independent. I just think that is this the first time in their life they've ever had a mouse near them?
I bet the speed dial's has had the odd mouse every now and then.
If a mouse comes, you just got to get a jug and stick it on the top of the mouse and throw it out the door.
Yeah. Also, Yasmin spent the last 6 months in Weatherfield Prison. I hear from Johnny on good authority that's all over the place.
Infested.
These invisible mice. That's what it was. It was one of Johnny's invisible mice. That's why we couldn't see it. Probably Aidan was there as well.
Don't worry, Aidan will catch it.
Anyway, more packages come. Elaine goes and tells Roy about Kathy's spending, and he explains that she used to be a hoarder in the past, and it seems like that those ways have come back again, although that doesn't really go anywhere, does it, for the rest of the week?
No, this was weird because basically that was the catalyst for the whole thing collapsing in on itself and Elaine leaving the street.
Yeah, basically. So Elaine goes back and says to Yasmin about all of this, and then they said, right, we need to go and have a sneaky look in Yasmin's room. Elaine says we need to have a look in Kathy's room and see if she's got massive piles of Amazon deliveries, and Yasmin says, no, we can't, that's very rude, we can't just go into her room. So Elaine goes and does it anyway. She enlists Brian to take a look in Kathy's room. Again, we didn't get to see it. Too much of this storyline this week relied on our imagination. Look, there's a mouse. Look, there's David. Look, there's a massive pile of boxes. When we had Kathy's hoarding storyline before, 5 years old ago, we got to see the piles of boxes. We got to see them fall on top of Kathy. I just thought it was a bit of a shame that we
It is a visual medium.
Yeah.
It's not like the Archers where you can go, oh, look at all these boxes.
Yeah, I'd forgive the Archers for that. At least if they had a mouse on the Archers, they'd probably play a few squeaky sound effects, wouldn't they? Yeah. Anyway, Yasmin comes home and she realises what's been going on. Elaine comes home. Who comes home
Kathy
first?
comes back and finds out they've been snooping.
Oh, yeah.
And tells Brian to get out.
Yeah. And then later on, Yasmin comes home and notices that things are very tense between Elaine and Kathy, and they're saying, look, we're just worried for you, Kathy. So Kathy apologises for snapping and they kind of make up. She goes grovelling back to Brian and says, I've realised this has got a bit silly now, actually. Can I come home? He says come home. He says, I love you, Kathy Matthews, this much. I thought it was very sweet. I do love the very rare instances we get of Kathy and Brian showing that they do have some kind of affection for each other.
He also says, I will help you with your hoarding.
Street. Yes, exactly. Very good. So then later on, Yasmin and Elaine are coming to blows about how to deal with Kathy, and Yasmin says, look, this is my house. What I say goes. Elaine backs down. Yasmin says, this isn't working. All of us living together. I need some time on my own. Let's get rid of Elaine. Let's disband the Golden Girls, and that's about it. So Elaine goes round living to give. Elaine is deciding that she's going to live with Tim. What else happens? But yeah, Kathy tells Yasmin that she's decided to move back in with Brian. They agree it's all been fun. They say, oh, it's the end of an era. And that's it. That's the end.
Well, we also get Tim agreeing that Elaine can live in their house without asking Sally. And then they come round.
Sally's got her estate agent
and she's
glasses
going, ooh,
sexy role
Mr. What's his name?
Metcalf.
Mr. Metcalf. Ooh, let me show you the cupboards
well,
or something.
I've forgotten what happened, really. Yeah,
and she doesn't realise, and Tim's standing there dumbfounded and not reacting, and then Elaine comes round the corner and Sally's like, oh no, I can't believe it. And then Elaine goes upstairs and she comes back down and says, oh, I've changed the sheets because they were stained and I've got the Egyptian cotton duvet cover. And Sally is scandalised because not only has her sex game been ruined, but so have her sheets.
Yeah. I think that they thought that was funnier than it is. I did say a lot of praise for the estate agent scene, but it feels like we've seen it all before a little bit.
I having gone through what I've been going through recently, I find estate agents deeply off-putting.
Yeah, very true.
And very
if she was a
unsexy.
sexy solicitor, that would be even worse, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
On the whole, the estate agents have not been too bad.
If it was a sexy solicitor, oh hello, yes, I'll do your property search. Why don't you come upstairs? I'd be like, yeah, I'll be there in 3 weeks when you're ready.
Anyway, there's already 2 very sexy solicitors on Coronation Street at the moment.
Oh,
aren't
you
there?
think so?
So
You've
I'm
been
told.
told, have you?
No, I was told on the Facebook last week actually that I'm supposed to admit when men are hunky, aren't I? Somebody posted that as a man, I shouldn't be ashamed of admitting when people are attractive. So good job, Imran and Adam.
Reading that thread made me
You're
realise
very hunky.
that I think I am just asexual or something. Because somebody being good looking has no effect on me whatsoever for whether I'm attracted to them or not. I have to get to know the person.
Yeah, it's just an added bonus how hot I am.
I know, I'm so lucky.
Friday, Elaine's not making herself very welcome in Sally's eyes in number 4.
She's trying to give her husband a heart attack.
Yep, because Sally says, oh, today is Wednesday. Don't ask what that was all about, but today is Wednesday and Tim usually eats, what was
crackers
it?
and a can of tuna
Yeah, something like that.
for lunch. And
so
instead, Elaine has cooked him a full English.
Elaine gets the message and decides that she's moving to somewhere in Bolton. Tim's kind of miffed about this, but it's too late.
Tim
Elaine's
blames
decision is
Sally,
made up.
yet again.
Mind is made up.
That it's her fault when actually he didn't ask her
No.
if Elaine could come round.
If you decided to bring your mum and live round our house unannounced, I would not be happy. Sexy role play or not.
I think Elaine says to Tim, like, oh yeah, Sally just keeps looking at me and I keep folding towels wrong. And I just had a flashback to like when we used to live with my parents and my dad would watch you
God,
do
Gemma's
everything.
dad's terrifying.
My dad does what, but I do this as well. Watch you do something, going, that's completely wrong. I don't even know where.
Yeah, I spent
what
a
planet
year
you're
living at
from.
Gemma's parents' house, and they're very lovely people. But and then I try and do, the dutiful son-in-law act, loading up the dishwasher and everything.
wrong.
And Gemma's dad just hovered behind me.
Yeah.
And then when I left the room, I could hear him clinking and clanking it about, putting everything in the right place.
Would have done that on purpose so that you could hear that you didn't do it right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so you can imagine after one day that
Of
Elaine
Sally.
wants to leave.
Yeah. So she is, and to be fair, I thought that she had some really nice final scenes with Tim.
So
It felt
you
like
reckon
it was
she's gone?
it felt like the end of Elaine. I don't know
Unless
whether
she's going to get murdered
I
next
haven't.
week.
Oh, maybe I haven't looked on Corrie's social media or anything.
She did say she left pants.
She did her Wednesday pants.
And she explained that she had more than one Wednesday pants, otherwise it would have made no sense why she wasn't wearing them. So maybe she'll come back for her Wednesday pants and like Sharon will accidentally kill her.
Maybe. No, it felt like she was saying properly goodbye, and it was very sweet. And they did the whole thing of Tim saying, "Oh, can you give me 3 rings when you get there?" And I did very much like the scene at the end where they're relaxing at home and the phone rings, and Sally goes to pick it up, and then obviously it cuts out after 3 rings, and Tim's just got a lovely expression on his face, like, "Oh, I've got a mum and she loves me," and everything. And he didn't tell Sally who it was.
No,
I
he
think it was just a
didn't.
little
It was a bit of a
secret
dick
between
thing
them.
to do.
No, it was sweet.
Everything Tim does.
I know that you can't be wavered, can you?
Absolutely not.
No, I thought that was very, very nice. So I mean, what do you think if this is the end of Elaine? You miss her? Because she kind of started to get a bit grating and annoying to me, and
I liked the interaction between the 3 women because it's not very often on television you get to see 3 women of that age just being on TV, just talking to each other about their own things, There's not very much representation of that kind of age group of people, and normally when an older lady is on the screen, she's like somebody else's something, like somebody else's mum or their aunt or their teacher or, they were just there for themselves, having their own stories, which was enjoyable.
I just didn't think it was that fun a story
I don't think
that
that
they were having.
I don't think they utilised them very well.
No.
I think there were so many more interesting, fun things that they could have done, and it felt a bit flat to me, most of it.
Yeah, and
But
the
I
fact
really
that they were
liked-
scared by a mouse, and it just
found that
none of them
stupid.
able to deal with it.
If it was a spider, yeah.
I feel that Shelley King is being underserved in terms of material post Jeff's storyline, And I wanted to see her, come bouncing back. And I know it's going to be a slow road to recovery and everything like that, but she's still not quite the Yasmin of old. Although the fact that she's now standing on her own 2 feet and saying, no, I need a bit of time alone, maybe.
Yeah, this was exactly what she needed. And I think Elaine was kind of like her guardian angel almost.
Yeah.
Like if you said, and Elaine wasn't even real, I would go, wow, what a great twist. She was actually an angel sent by God. You know what I mean? Because she came and she taught Yasmin how to stand on her own 2 feet, like you say, and she guided her when she needed it, and at the end she was the one that Yasmin stood up to. Yeah, like, you finally stood up for yourself, and then she kind of disappears in a whiff of smoke. Well done, you've learned your lesson, you've returned to your pre-Jeff self.
Yeah, so let's...
I don't know whether that's, something... I mean, we've...
Ready for the next chapter of Yasmin.
Yeah.
I still don't really know what that's going to involve.
No, nothing probably.
Is she going to get herself another fellow? Is Alia and Ryan finally going to have a story of their own that Yasmin's, a hanger on to? I really, really, really need to see Yasmin dispensing more wise grandmotherly advice, which she kind of did a little bit to Asher a couple of months ago, didn't she? When she recognised that coercive behaviour in Corey.
Yeah.
But that's the Yasmin that I want to see more of, not silly, incapable Yasmin.
They need to do something with her. I mean, I know she owns part in Speed Dial, but I just think, does that really scream Yasmin to me? No. Is it her passion? No. Does she, does it add anything to her or the location to have her there? No. She needs something like she had before, like a library or community centre or something, where she can be Yasmin again. Because being a server at Speed Dial is, any character can do that role. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't feel like Yasmin's Yasmininess comes out when she's at Speed Dial. Whereas, for example, Alia works in there because Alia is kind of a snitty, kind of harassed, on the edge, kind of always stressed and kind of busy kind of a person. She's ambitious, she takes on lots of projects, and so you can see those parts of Alia's personality when she's there, because she's like, I've got to do this, I've got to organise that, I've got this table's got to do this, I've got to change the menu, blah blah blah. That facilitates us to see those parts of Alia's personality. Same with Ryan. Ryan's a very laid back, chill kind of dude who doesn't really take anything seriously. Him, working at Speed Dial, being, getting things wrong or not really caring about his job being a bit sloppy or doing his DJ sets or whatever. Again, that adds to his character and allows him to display parts of his personality that feel true to him. Yasmin being in there doesn't feel to me like she's... Because she didn't even get to help pick the menu.
No, it just feels like it's making her stressed, and she's bowing and scraping to the customers.
Like the thing is, she could fit into that scenario if they changed the way that she reacted in the scenes. So Yasmin could actually work really well, but they're not using her properly because she could be the host. Because Yasmin is a sort of a very community-minded,
warm and
loving,
welcoming.
So she would be really good as the host, and she could say, "May I recommend the nahari? Many people have not heard of this dish, but it's Pakistan's national dish." Blah blah blah. And teach people and share her culture. None of that. We just get her scurrying around, worrying about who's not had their mango lassi.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Let's keep her in more serious storylines as well, because if you're going to put her in a storyline with Kathy and Elaine, it's not going to be anything, mega serious, is it? There's going to be comedy hijinks, and that's about as deep as it'll get.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway.
Do you think that Kathy's going to start hoarding again, or do you think this was just like the way of getting her back?
It kind of maybe. I don't know whether it would be interesting or not. Whether it'd feel like it was just retreading old ground.
I just don't understand.
The way that it was dealt with here, it felt like it was paying minor lip service to the hoarding story. She gets a couple of packages delivered, and that's about it.
It felt like a story that looked neat on paper, but when it was actually on screen, it didn't work because that being the trigger for everybody leaving that house was bizarre. Because it's still never really been explained why Kathy wanted to leave Brian in the first place. No. and why Brian let her.
And why she was still there 2 months later.
Makes
that was
no
just,
sense.
No, they got the timescale for this very, very wrong.
Yeah.
Brian, I don't believe, would put up, I know he's a patient man and everything, but he wouldn't put up with Kathy living next door to him. He should, no, for 2 months.
With no explanation and no respect.
And he has to just deal with it.
Yeah, like,
he's
just be patient with me.
He has to run the cabin. I mean, thank goodness Sharon's around to help out at the cabin.
She literally didn't even say, I know this is unreasonable, you've got to be patient with me, I'm going through something I don't really understand myself, but I think I'm having a breakdown and I need a bit of space. None of that. She just went, I just want somewhere from Amazon parcels to come.
Yeah, basically, it didn't work. It was messy, but anyway, it's over now. So
it's over, so you don't need to worry about it anymore.
Right, next story: pop, shop, and slipping on slop.
Is this not you?
No, I thought it was you.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, sure.
All right, okay. I wasn't prepared for this, so this was very frustrating because Evelyn's back.
That's good.
And she didn't tell Alina to go and curl up and die in a ball.
Yeah, Evelyn was a bit too restrained on Monday's episode, wasn't
Everybody
she?
was waiting for Evelyn to come back and discover that Alina and Tyrone were having an affair so that she could confront them both and tell them they're both a pair of idiots and selfish, nasty, backstabbing, horrible people and put Alina in her place. That didn't happen.
They half did it, but the dialogue wasn't quite...
They didn't do it.
...cutting enough.
So on Monday, Fizz reminds Tyrone that he needs to get the girls some new shoes. So he is also... He's having his finances pulled in two different directions there because the girls need shoes, but Alina needs fancy coffee cups.
Glass coffee cups.
I mean,
of all different sizes.
We know the appeal because we have those double-walled, those Bowden ones.
Oh yes,
they're very fancy. But if I had to choose between buying children's shoes or coffee cups that were made of glass, I think I'd have to pick the shoes.
If you had children, right now we can have as many glass coffee cups as you like.
Yeah. Nobody really asks me for children's shoes, so actually that's a dilemma that's not cropped up. Tyrone comes back from shopping. He's bought the coffee cups. Evelyn makes fun of him, so does Fizz, and Evelyn's clearly mad with him. Again, why doesn't he get taken to task for this? Why didn't Evelyn say something like, in my day we used to drink coffee out of a shoe, or something equally ridiculous? Dev says to Tyrone, I've got a solution for you for your money troubles. Why don't you deliver groceries for me starting tonight? And Tyrone says, well, I'll ask Evelyn, and if she says yes, I'm in.
This was something, a nice little callback to Ardy being a businessman, which has been put on the back burner a lot. But those few scenes that we had a few months ago of Ardy desperately, with his suit and tie and everything, and trying to be the boss.
Give Evelyn
it's a shame that he's been more distracted by what's going on with Seb and Asher and everything. But it was his idea to do this grocery round.
So that's really, you're right, very nice touch here. Coronation Street hasn't forgotten that. Many other things that have slipped through the cracks, but not Ardy's pioneering grocery delivery service. Thank goodness, you'll be pleased to know. So Evelyn says, no, I'm not going to enable your affair, but I don't like it, but...
she basically spends Monday's episode...
Being a git.
Yeah, and calling him Mr. Dobbs and not wanting to talk about the whole situation and not being friendly with him, really, just treating him like a co-worker rather than her grandson.
Yeah. Alina comes into the shop. Evelyn's sarcastic to her, but nothing to write home about. There's no quotable bits, I don't think. Nothing memorable. Fizz comes into the shop and sees and is shocked to hear from Evelyn that Dev's hired Tyrone. And she gets sad because she remembers when Tyrone used to bring her mugs of tea in bed, and now he's going to be bringing Alina coffees and fancy coffee cups. That would really get you go, wouldn't it? Tyrone is getting ready because Alina's cooked him toad in the hole, which the scriptwriters think she wouldn't get, and so keeps saying, I want you to eat the toad's getting cold, and stuff like that. I don't...
Sounds racy.
Evelyn comes out with 2 more orders for him to deliver to scupper his romantic toad in the hole plans. Yeah, maybe Alina thinks toad in the hole is something different.
Maybe.
You'll have to come back because my hole needs a toad.
For him.
Wednesday, Evelyn has Bernie's there for some reason in the shop. She pushes
She's
over
helping out.
some salad dressing
No.
that falls on the floor, and then she goes to clean it up, and Evelyn comes in, walks on it, and falls over.
Again, I know that maybe it's more likely that we can see a mouse than Maureen Lipman spectacularly falling over, but it was a bit of a shame because you could see it coming, but we just hear her falling down. I wanted to see it. Well, get a stunt, Evelyn. They could have done it.
Dev comes back, finds out what happened, and Evelyn's saying that it's criminal negligence and she's going to sue them.
Yeah, she's sitting there on the shop floor with a bag of frozen peas on her leg. And
Which, as far as I can tell, Dev doesn't sell frozen peas.
Frozen somethings.
Evelyn's got her feet up later, tells Dev she reckons she should settle out of court.
Yeah, this is back at home, isn't it? This is back at
And Bernie says she'll change it. Bernie says something about, I'll just lie in court because I've done it before.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. Bernie goes moaning to Dev later that she's been made Evelyn's skivvy.
Yeah, basically the story goes that Evelyn says, well, maybe I won't sue you if you are my slave.
Yeah. Bernie has to do stuff like walking the dog and going to the shops for Evelyn when she should be working, and she's also having to cover Evelyn's shifts for free. She comes back to the shop, but she doesn't get the right biscuits that Evelyn wanted for Cerberus, so she gets guilt-tripped and has to go back to the shop to get them. And Evelyn turns out she had the biscuits all along.
Oh, it was nice that we saw Cerberus today, wasn't it?
See lovely Cerberus, yeah.
We have seen so few Corrie animals recently.
I know.
It was a very nice surprise.
Recently, as in ever.
Yeah, but even more so in the past year. There's not been very much animal action.
Evelyn
Has Tracy definitely got rid of her cat now? Because if I was Yasmin and Elaine and Kathy and I had a mouse problem and I wanted to get an animal, then maybe a dog wouldn't have been my first choice. I think she did get rid of poor Sylvester.
Isn't David a Yorkshire Terrier though?
Do they eat mice?
That's what they're for.
Oh, okay.
That's what they were bred for, like to get rats, to kill rats. I think.
Oh, I did not know that.
There's quite a lot of dogs. I think terriers. I think that's what they're for. Terriers.
Okay. Anyway,
I don't know very much about the dog breeds.
What happens with Evelyn?
Evelyn's enjoying Moxie magazine because Hire's been suspended since Corey's dad's been busy ferrying his child to and from the school so he doesn't murder anybody else. Fizz says, please can you... This was a bizarre scene as well. Fizz says, can you take the washing in? And Evelyn suddenly doesn't understand the concept of washing or
no, she just doesn't like...
I know she's being awkward, but it was written oddly. I don't like the sound of that, she saes. I've been told I can't specifically make this motion of taking a peg off of the line.
That was funny.
And Fizz is like, bye you lying cow, I'll see you later. the washing had better be in. Fizz goes... Evelyn suddenly is full of the joys of spring, starts singing and dancing, gets the shopping basket, the washing basket, goes outside, in very musical fashion begins to remove the bras from the line. Dev happens to be in the ginnel.
Coincidental.
Hears her, stands on a crate, looks over and starts filming her and starts going, I caught you, and they sort of have this kind of... It's almost like it could have been a musical. He says, he goes and tells Bernie what Evelyn's been lying about being sick and unable to work, and Bernie says, let's make her pay.
Ooh, she's got a plot.
See, I don't know if
to counterbalance all the harrowing high drama that's going to be in next week's 9 p.m. episodes, or maybe that's why they're putting it after the watershed next week.
Well, yeah, because
Bernie's just going to shoot Evelyn in the head or something.
Bernie's like, you're supposed to be like, what whimsical plan will they come up with to make Evelyn's life a misery? And it's like, Bernie's like, listen, Dev, you know I've said to you before about lying in court. Well, what I was lying about was the fact I poured petrol on this old lady and set her on fire because she was looking at me funny down the bingo. So I thought we could do that again.
I think she's going to catfish her and then just film her on the internet. That seems to be her MO at the moment, doesn't it?
Or pretend that she's what's his face? Her boyfriend.
Arthur.
It's me, Arthur.
Oh gosh, yeah, probably.
Meet me at the corner, wear your sexiest cardigan.
Yeah. I hope whatever it is that Bernie ends up with egg on her face. I don't need to see Evelyn, or I don't need to see her getting one over Evelyn.
Between Bernie and Evelyn. If Evelyn comes off worse, she really does.
Unsatisfying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know
definitely.
what her plan's going to be really, but I
Is
want Evelyn
it
to
going to be
win.
the comic relief of the big dark soap week?
Surely it is, and I can tell you now, it's probably not going to be that funny. But Evelyn was great today. I'm still not completely sold on Bernie. I thought it was odd that Bernie was putting up with all this skivvying for so long.
But
Like,
also, yeah, 'cause she should say,
why
well,
was
it's
she
not my
banging and
problem.
scraping to Evelyn? And I know it was like the possibility that the shop was getting sued and everything.
Well,
but
so what? Bernie
I would have
doesn't
thought
care.
that she would have. Well, Bernie is an employee of Dev's,
Well,
isn't
just
she?
get another job. I also don't like. If I was Bernie, I think I would have pointed out. It's all very nice you asking me to go to the shop for you and take the dog for a walk and cover your shifts for free. But I live in a house with 4 babies, a child, and 2 idiots. I need to earn money for the family. I can't just be going around doing chores for you.
It felt like Bernie should have stood up to Evelyn a
Bernie's
little
not
bit
the
more.
sort of woman to be made a fool of like this.
No. So
But
it
the
just
mad
came
thing-
across as feeling like very kind of low stakes.
It was fun. It was kind of
nothingness.
silly, but again, it
okay.
wasn't as good
I mean,
as.
it had Dev and Evelyn in, so it can't be bad, can
But
it?
I
to be
really
fair?
am just mad at this missed opportunity. I wanted to see the righteous anger of Evelyn taking out the viewers' frustrations on Tyrone and Alina about how low down and dirty they've been.
Yeah, especially because she was away for a big proportion of the story at the beginning.
I would really like to see a
Travelling.
really impassioned, like either I want to see some kind of really comic and deeply satisfying visceral attack, or I want something very heartfelt and moving from her.
I
where
think
she
that
say
she could do
something like-
either very well.
Exactly. You know, I want I mean, also she hasn't said anything, but the fact that she had to put the washing out today for Fizz, because now Fizz is a single parent raising these children by herself. Evelyn's going to be the one picking up the slack. And
She needs a one-on-one scene with Tyrone
Yeah.
where some home truths
we
are
need something like, you know,
spat.
when I was raising our Cassie, you know, my husband did this to me. I don't know, I can't remember what backstory we've learned about what it was like for her raising Cassie, because that's Tyrone's real mum.
Poor Jackie.
You know, oh, he left me for another woman when I was a young girl, and you know, I could have, you know, maybe she could even say, if it wasn't for the fact that, you know, I had you, maybe I could have run off with Arthur back then, but I didn't have the chance because I was raising you. And do I resent Cassie? I mean, do I resent Cassie for it? No, but I resent him because he left me by myself, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. I did find it semi-interesting that Bernie was the one to, you know, get put in this story with Evelyn this week, because they both have kind of shared interests in this affair, because Bernie is... What's the link there?
I don't know.
She's Gemma's mum, and Gemma's going out with Chesney, and Chesney's the brother of
Oh,
Fizz,
yeah, that's
who's
true.
the wrong party in this, and Evelyn is Tyrone's nan. But also she's kind of on Fizz's side on this, so I don't know whether they could, you know,
Yeah,
at the
bond
end
over
of this,
this,
Bernie's going to try and get her revenge. Evelyn will go, fair cop, maybe I've been a bit of an old cow bag. Let's try and get Fizz and Tyrone back together, or let's try and, you know, bang their heads together or something. I don't know, but it could lead to a bonding experience, I suppose.
Whenever I think of Tyrone and his coffee cups and his feature wall with YOLO and biscuits or whatever's written on there, I have this mental image of Uncle Fester from Alan's Family Values dressed up in his white turtleneck outfit with who's that wonderful actress, I've forgotten her name, who plays Debbie, going, Fester! And him going, yes, Debbie! And running and scurrying
Tyrone
around.
has scrubbed up a lot, hasn't he, since he's been going out with Alina?
But remember how awkward Fester... If you haven't seen Alan's Family and Alan's Family Values, you have to watch them. I think they're my favourite films of all time. Uncle Fester wearing that outfit, just standing there with his kind of his fists clenched and his arms held out by his sides because he's so kind of completely bewildered by this new outfit that he's been. Like, is Tyrone comfortable with fancy coffee cups in different sizes? Is this going to be in 6 months' time? Is he going to sit down with Fizz and he's going to have a speech and he's going to bring up these coffee cups and say, that's when I knew it could never work because I like my tea in a mug? And she would have gone, yeah, we both like our tea in a mug. Come here. And then they have a passionate snog. I don't know.
Tyrone has always come across as just being an old granddad, doesn't he? You know, pipe and slippers sort of guy.
Yeah.
And not interested in
fancy material
no,
things, just like you.
Exactly.
And
or,
I am a
youth
glass
culture
coffee cup kind
or
of
anything
woman.
like that. And I think I mean, I
He's
think
out
he's
of his
quite.
depth.
But he's not coming across as out of his depth.
No, but
I think he
feels
will
like
do. I
he's
think
and playing along
at some
with it.
point he'll realise this isn't my life.
But the other thing I'm thinking, Alina, here is it's difficult because there's absolutely no reason why a woman of her age who has her own job, her own business, and a boyfriend shouldn't splurge money on ridiculously overpriced coffee cups. But she's also got a man who has got children. And how fair is it then for her to sort of sacrifice things that she wants because, you know, he has other financial issues? How much has she really thought about this? Does she think that forever, whenever she snaps her fingers and wants to, you know, I don't know, buy something for the house, he's going to buy it for her? There's got to be a limit to what she must realise there's a limit here to how much he can spend money on her. Is she a gold digger? Is this all leading up to her wanting him to sell the house? Because if he releases the equity on that house, he's going to have tens of thousands of pounds. And that house really is his house and it's owned outright. There's no mortgage on it. That's, you know...
Yeah, she just thinks that she can flutter her eyelids, speak to him in the sexy accent, and give him a smile, and then she'll get what she wants. But I don't like the notion of her being characterised as a gold digger because she was the victim when she came into the.
Yeah, she was the victim, but at the same time, is it realistic? How would you feel if you were Alina?
People saying be a victim all your life.
No, but also being like, you know, you should be happy with living in a little flat and having your boyfriend...
Your coffee in a normal sized cup.
Have a normal cup, like everybody else in Weatherfield. You know, she's allowed to have aspirations and dreams, but at the same time, with Tyrone, is that possible? I don't know.
I don't know.
It is really interesting. I don't know how they're playing it, because it feels a bit like we're just to think that Tyrone's a bit of a stupid tosspot.
I'm not sure at the moment as well how much we're supposed to be like supporting Tyrone, because this is definitely not being written in unsympathetically, I wouldn't say, but I don't want to get into an argument with anyone about that, because people would say that. But Tyrone is looking a bit more likeable at the moment than I'm happy with, so I hope that he's got a fall coming.
In a way, though, I think this is quite a well written story because people are getting different things out of it from what their perspective is. Because I think that lots of people are like, oh yeah, well, Fizz is a nag, he's well off without her, Alina's delightful, blah blah blah. I did see a lot of people saying that Alina is way too old to be putting YOLO on her wall.
I don't know.
But like I said, I don't know whether that's the thing in Romania.
Not a clue. Maybe they're
Is she from Romania?
Yeah.
What is Jan from Poland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Right. Let's do this Emma and Curtis, whatever we're going to call it, story, which was basically summed up as there's a new character come on the street. He's going to have a relationship with another character, so therefore he needs to make himself unlikable, get into some kind of conflict with somebody who is linked to that character. And this is what happened. So Curtis appears round the side of the Rovers and Emma's out rolling the barrels on Monday, and she invites him in for a free drink later because he helps her out. She tells Johnny and Steve about this Curtis, and she's actually quite pleased with herself that she's found herself a date. But oh dear, it turns out that Curtis is only this cycle hooligan who knocked Steve off the bike the other day.
Excuse me.
What are the chances? A psychopath.
Yeah.
And then Steve just ends up being a pillock towards him and going, oh, you can't date that guy. Look at him. He nearly killed me, blah, blah, blah. So there's the conflict, everybody. It was like beating you around the head with it. Steve goes and moans to Amy later, who takes Emma's side.
All the moaning that we've done this week about all the cliches and stuff, one thing I've never, ever heard anybody describe any soap of any that's ever been made is using the word subtle. Why are you expecting it from a soap?
Oh, but Steve, he's like, oh man, this
Coronation Street for years has been subtle soap. In fact, so subtle nobody really knows what it's about.
It could afford to be a bit more subtle and still retain.
Get the point across.
Yeah, be a soap. Amy's starting to worry that Steve's getting a bit obsessed with this fundraising stuff, and he says he's fine mostly, and he says, well, look, actually it gives me a purpose, but he does kind of seem to realise that he's neglecting Amy and Emma somewhat. So he goes over to see Emma and says sorry. Curtis has kind of got the message that maybe
I think if the message...
It's not worth it because her dad's a maniac.
The message isn't, I'm a bad person because I knocked this guy off a bicycle. It's this woman's got a psychopath for a dad.
So Steve and Emma agreed to do a little bit of running together, which is what we see them doing on Wednesday. And Steve also decides that he wants to ring Curtis and apologise for being a pillock. So he shows up to meet Steve.
Weirdly, he doesn't phone up Curtis and go, Curtis, look, I'm sorry. I was a bit of an idiot and I was mean to you.
He just says, come here, I've got something to tell you.
And Curtis goes, yes, of course I'll meet you, man I've met once in my life before. Well, twice, the first time I knocked you off a bike. I'll meet you in a park.
Yeah, odd. But we also learn that it's very coincidental and quite, what are the chances that he needs to be there already because he's got a job interview at the bistro later.
Curtis says, yeah, don't worry, I'll turn up. I've got a job interview in 3 hours' time.
Yeah.
I don't mind sitting around in a park for 3 hours prior to my interview to help me really build up that tension that you need to get really good in a job interview.
Well, fortunately, Steve is a top businessman. He used to own the Rovers, don't you know?
He knows all about hospitality.
He knows all about business.
The last time you saw him, he was shouting at a man in a pub.
Yeah, so he agrees to give Curtis a mock interview.
Is being an expert in hospitality.
He gives Curtis a mock interview. We learn a little bit more about him through this, a little bit of character development. He's training to be a doctor. He aspires to have a work-life balance. Good luck with that.
He likes running for charity.
He wants to do the Tour de France at one point. Also, he wants to find the love of his life and settle down. And Emma goes a little bit mushy over this because I think that she's maybe in love.
This was a job interview to be Emma's boyfriend. And he passed with flying colours.
Absolutely. And he got the bistro job. It all went well. Debbie was impressed, apparently. We didn't get to see it.
Didn't get to see that.
Didn't get to see any Debbie this week, as far as I can tell. Anyway, so this is Curtis, everybody. Welcome. He has had his introduction story. I wonder what's going to happen now. What do you think of Curtis?
I hate him.
No, do you?
Yeah, I think he's an idiot.
Why?
What do you think?
I thought he was fine. That he didn't appear... As much as they tried to give him a bit of personality and, reeling off the things that made him tick. He
sounded like a massive liar.
He sounded fine to me. He sounded like a general nice guy.
What's the catch, Curtis? Oh, yeah. Oh, I want to work in the bistro to earn money part-time because I want to be a doctor and save lives. But before then, I'm going to be trained for the Tour de France and I run for charity and I just want to meet a beautiful woman that looks exactly like Emma and have lots of gorgeous little babies with her and raise them in a cottage with brambles. And also I murder women.
Hopefully he'll have some kind of flaw.
I think how?
He wasn't the most engaging of characters. Didn't give him much of a chance. They had to shoehorn in this
stupid. Every male doctor on this programme is boring and bland. The only good doctor we've ever had is Dr. Gaddis. And if Curtis thinks he's coming into the show and being a doctor and getting rid of Dr. Gaddis, he can get lost.
Exactly.
Get lost, Curtis.
You better not oust her.
No.
We've only seen one episode of Dr. Gaddis in the past 10 months or so.
Also, if he's training to be a doctor and he's going on about, I've got to do 5 years as this and then 7 years I'll do that and then I'm going to be a consultant, blah, blah, blah. If he thinks he can have work-life balance, training to be a doctor and working part-time in the bistro in Weatherfield, he's got another thing coming. He's going to get shot in the head.
Do you think...
next week, probably.
Do you think that Emma is the sort of girl that a doctor would, want to go out with? She's not exactly going to offer the most stimulating conversation, is she?
There will be lots of really funny conversations where he says some kind of medical thing and she goes, I thought that were a village in Spain.
Didn't they have that in the past? It wasn't like Maria going out with Dr. Carter or something for a bit.
I don't know.
And I think Maxine went out. Well, yeah, Maxine obviously had that thing with the other Dr. Matt because that's where baby what's-his-face came from.
Oh, good old baby what's-his-face.
So, yeah, maybe the doctors on the street, they always have... Maybe they are.
There's something a bit off-putting about a man who only dates women who are attractive and stupid.
I thought he was fine. He didn't come across as being...
Are you scared of being challenged by a woman or something?
He didn't come across as being up himself. He seemed like nice and normal and very homely.
What's he doing in this show?
I think he could be a good fit for Emma as long as they give him a bit more of a personality than just I'm nice.
Why doesn't he say anything interesting? I want to be a doctor and I want to cycle for charity.
I'd like to... Emma, I think she deserves a bit of normality.
Well, he's going to die then.
No, I don't know. We'll see.
He's either going to be, secretly some kind of sadistic murderer who's been pushing men in canals, and that's where all the bodies came when Billy was looking for Todd. Or he's going to get killed because he's too good for this world.
Well, Steve did ask Curtis in his job interview, his fake job interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So is that where you see him in 5 years?
Dead.
In the bottom of a canal?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think give him a chance. I wasn't off-put by him. That's the highest praise I can give him at this point. And it's nice that Emma's potentially got a storyline coming up. And I want Emma to be happy. I want there to be a nice, happy, perfect relationship. I mean, we were so close with Seb and Nina just recently. So the Coronation
close.
Street has proven that they can do a nice, soppy, little, lovely-dovey romance, and maybe this is a chance to see it again. So
It goes to
I will
show.
happily see more Curtis.
It goes to show you like how insecure and like reverse snob of a person that I am when somebody says, "Well, when I train, eventually I want to be a doctor," and my response is, "How dare you think you're better than everyone else?"
Right. Speaking of Seb and Nina, Gemma, Aretha Franklin, over to you.
On Friday, this is the first time we get the story. It was today. George is in the cafe with Nina, and he says, "Oh, we're all set for the interview tomorrow. I'm going to make sure that..."
Interview.
I get funerals and interviews confused, but luckily I'm always dressed appropriately for both. He says, "Yeah, don't worry. We're going to give Seb a really great send off at the funeral tomorrow." And Nina's stunned because she didn't even know it was going to happen that soon, and she reckons that Abby didn't tell her on purpose because she doesn't want her to know. Meanwhile, Abby is struggling to cope. She's at Sally's house. Elaine's not helping her. Nina tells Asha that she should be there at the funeral because that's what Seb would want. But what will Abby say? And Asha says, "Look, I'll go with you to talk to her, to get her to convince her to let you go." And then she suddenly gets this mystery text. She goes, "Oh, I can't actually. We'll do it this evening." And Nina says no. She goes by herself. But the text was Corey. So Ashley meets up with him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm grounded because I killed a guy. God.
So unfair.
My parents suddenly got really strict out of nowhere." He says, like, "I can't really talk about the court case." But
I will anyway.
Yeah, I will anyway, because I'm a criminal.
He blames Kelly. He's keeping up that story.
Yeah,
It was definitely her what done
it. Did it. And he says, "Look, why don't we go up to the flat because it's still empty?" And Asha stalls, saying, "Oh, it's too soon for us to be more than mates." And she leaves. But and then she phones him later and says, "Oh, maybe I was being a bit hasty." So she's said before that she's got this plan, hasn't she? To
yeah, she's told Ardy that she's trying to lure him in and get him to open up
confess
and
that he's the one that did it.
Which, so I think at the time when he said let's go back to the flat, she was obviously understandably terrified about being locked in this place with a murderer, and I think she thinks that he did it. But then this scene kind of shows that maybe I can get something out of him.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So Nina goes around and sees Abby, and she says, "Listen, I know that you didn't tell me about the funeral because you didn't want me to come, so I won't. I don't want to make it any harder than it is already." And Abby says, "Yep, you're bang on. I don't want you there. I'm sad. Leave me alone." And Nina leaves, and Abby cries.
That was so sad.
And Nina said something about the galloping horses of grief and how they sort of come upon you faster than you expecting. And Abby I think Abby's touched and understands that Nina feels her grief too, but she's not prepared to let her guard down and acknowledge Nina's suffering because she's only cares about herself at the moment, which is fair enough.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this story ramping up again this week. It's only been, week and a half or so since we last saw any of this, and it feels
so
like
long.
I know it does. It really, really does. It was because the quality of Corrie took a nosedive these past 2 weeks, isn't it? But yeah, this is going to be back in the rotation again. I'm loving. I adore Nina and Abby. Really interesting to see that Nina is still looking like a normal, for want of a better word.
A normal.
She just looks so odd.
She still looks
without
like...
her costume. Not her costume, sorry. She's in a costume now, isn't she? This is her costume, her jeans and jumper.
Yeah. She still looks like a Tim Burton character without the fancy black outfits because she's got such massive eyes. And they're sort of black ringed with sadness.
Oh, I can't.
I'm
just so excited. Not even about what happens next week in this. I'm just looking forward to those two characters doing anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they'll be fantastic.
So, I mean, the betting is here that...
she's going to turn up at the funeral?
Abby will ask her to come.
You reckon?
Yeah.
She's not just going to turn... I think she'll be there. Will she just turn up, though?
No, I don't think she'll just... I think she's
more respectful, isn't she?
And don't forget also that Roy found her bag of clothes with all her black dresses.
Oh, yeah. Well, Asher's got those.
Asher's got them. So maybe Asher will give her a dress to wear.
Yeah.
Because if you wearing black at a funeral, you're not going to stand out. You might as well.
I don't think...
You'll stand out more if you wear white.
It makes sense for dramatically for plot purposes for Abby to be mad at Nina in the immediate aftermath of Seb's death, but to not have them have some kind of tearful reconciliation by the graveside, it'd be a bit of a missed opportunity.
There's going to be a really satisfyingly emotional scene of them. I don't know whether they can't hug each other though. That's the thing. Are they gonna bubble up and to have a scene, because they've done it for more ridiculous.
What, Kevin and Debbie in the freezer?
They really didn't need Kevin and Debbie to bubble up for that scene, but they...
No more than other characters maybe needed to. But there's been plenty of reasons why they...
Well, I guess they just need somebody with a Nina wig. Actually, they don't need...
Get Joe Duttine in a Nina wig, and then they can have a nice hug from behind.
Well, they just need an Abby, and they need a couple who are like close family, or perhaps gay women who have exactly the same hair as Nina and Abby to have a faceless hug.
I hope
at
that
a funeral,
something.
and if they've put that in the paper to recruit, I want to see the advert.
I really have got no idea when Coronation Street can go back to these close huggy scenes, and I've been missing. I feel like times. I've been very tolerant of it and understanding, but at some point they've got to go back to it, and I understand they can't rush it. But yeah, it's a shame. Because
the thing is that they haven't capitalised on is the fact that you literally can't do this in real life. I mean, you can now. You can hug people outside, but they haven't really used this as an excuse for why people aren't hugging, and it's been a bit strange. Because in real life, I've had situations where it's like, oh, well, I wish I could give you a hug or whatever.
They had that scene, I remember. Was it Gemma and somebody?
Abby.
Outside the fish and chip
Abby
shop.
said that, and it would have been good to have seen a bit more of that. I don't know. But do you remember when this probably around this time last year when the pandemic was getting into full swing and people were talking about you can't hug, and all these people were coming up with these weird inventions of like plastic sheets with like big arms coming through, so you could give your grandma a hug.
Oh, is it like in Pushing Daisies? Because those two characters couldn't touch, could they?
Oh, yeah, it's just like that, yeah.
Oh, do you remember? Did anyone else like Pushing Daisies? That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, what they need is a big grieving plastic sheet.
Yeah.
So that Abby can give everyone a hug at the funeral. And then spray her down with a bit of anti-bac.
It's going to be good. It's going to be sad.
So next week we've got the funeral.
The thing is, will we get to see the funeral? I don't know. Or is it going to be one of these other... They come back from the funeral like with Jeff, so we didn't actually get to see any of it. It could always
be a scene where it's like Abby go... they get in the car... And Nina's looking, and she's sad, and Abby sees her and says, "Oh, Nina, come with me." And then they go off together, and then they come back and go, "That was good, wasn't it?"
I complain that they haven't had as much hugging, but they have at least started doing a little bit of location filming, haven't they? And maybe the fact that this is a special week next week means that we maybe get a church side scene.
I don't know. Though. I think it would be just as poignant to have the hearse
with Aretha Franklin.
With Aretha Franklin and the mourning car and George with a top hat and his outfit, and do they have a cane marching down the road and just have a scene? They could literally just have a silent scene of George just leading the coffin down the road.
I have every faith in Coronation Street that they will do a good job, because
something they do will be good.
Those 2 weeks that they're almost wholly dedicated to this story a couple of weeks ago were just fantastic from start to finish. So with they're going back on, that filming block or whatever, that story, I'm sure it'd be fantastic. It's been odd how we've not had any Eileen involvement. We thought that with Todd working at the funeral parlour and Eileen and George
on the phone about him dying.
Yeah,
that was it.
But yeah, Eileen seems to be being kept away from lots of characters at the moment. By the way, I saw that Lisa George was back to filming this week.
Oh, that's good.
She's been shielding for a long time, so yeah, we'll get to see a bit more Beth.
Such frustrating.
In a month or so. It really is. Must be so frustrating for her.
To have done that for so long.
Anyway, this story, part of this story, is the one little spoiler that I've seen for next week, and I've not looked too far into it. I've been really trying hard to avoid spoilers for next week, and I've seen something related to this, so I don't want to say any more.
What could it be?
Well, I can't speculate because I know.
You do.
But I don't know much. Finally, we've got the Peter story, The Stand and Delivered, and it looks like a delivering is on the cards soon because he's back on the transplant list, we find out today. Thank goodness for that. And now they just have to wait to find a donor. And Adam and Daniel kind of get their heads together in today's episode, and they say then we really should offer our livers up, or at the very least go for a test to find out if one of our livers is viable, which I'm sure it will be. The word gets to Sarah Lou about this, who's not happy because yes, she is in a relationship with Adam at the moment. I think that's right.
Well, even if she's not, she's still looking for an excuse to be mad about something, because that's all her character seems to be at the moment.
So she comes round with a wonky finger at Adam and says, "Oh, you can't just go offering your liver about left, right, and centre. What's going on with you,
Adam? Half of that liver is technically mine by law. So what are you going to do? Give him a core of your liver because that's all you can give him?
And that's basically it, really.
Need to keep a bit for yourself."
Nothing particularly exciting in that story. I'm kind of disappointed that it was ramping up this week because whatever excellence that next week serves for the Sharon plot and the Seb plot, this is going to be, bubbling away there as well, which is a bit of a shame because I'm not that interested. I'm assuming that either Daniel or Adam will be a match, or maybe they will both be a match. And Sarah seems to be she's desperately trying to talk Adam out of it. I wonder whether maybe Adam goes for a test with Daniel. Daniel's not a match, but Adam is. But Sarah's convinced Adam to not go through with it at that point, maybe. I don't know. Well, like many of these things, it feels like Peter getting a new liver is just inevitable. So I'm kind of thinking, let's just get it out of the way.
I think I've said all along, I just assumed Daniel's going to give him a liver. His liver. So I just assume. I don't know where I got that idea from.
I don't know.
But this was a very this is one of these ones where the scenes just feel like they're going through the motions, like you have to have these these scenes. Luckily they didn't dwell on them too long because it's, feels like it writes itself. I need a liver. Oh, my relatives could give me a liver. The relatives talk to each other and go, oh gosh, we probably should, but what do we feel about it? Oh, it would be terrible if we didn't, but this is, our lives we're talking about. Okay, let's do it. And then the guy that they're giving the liver to goes, no, I can't possibly accept this liver. What kind of a man would I be if I just stole my livers off of all of my relatives? And then the girlfriend of the person says, you've got to take the liver. If they offered it to you, they love you, they're your family, everyone wants you to live. You know what I mean? Like,
they do have a bit of that conflict, don't they?
You could put any characters into this situation and it would have been exactly the same.
You reckon?
Yeah, because this is
Carla's the one that's pushing for the
there was nothing there's nothing unique about any of these characters' reactions to this storyline, in my opinion.
No.
But I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. I think we ran out of steam.
You moved the thing. So,
sorry.
I can't remember. I was going to say something, and I can't remember what it was.
I'm sure it was very deep.
Oh,
anyway, that was the end of this week. But like I said, I think that I quite enjoyed having a chat about this. Oh, go on.
The only thing I was going to say was I think that if you, I don't know if anyone's in this situation, but I think I remember reading that you can get yourself tested and you can tell the doctors to tell the person that you were not a match. The doctors will not give the information out that you were a match if you don't want them to. So,
okay.
Like if you're ever in this situation,
Adam might be a match and then say, actually, I don't want to do it. Please, doc.
Please don't tell him that I'm a match, because the doctor, they've got to protect all of their patients.
Maybe he'll do that for a bit, and then he'll get a pang of guilt and say, "Oh no, you can have my liver after all." After a month or so, I don't know. Anyway, I
enjoy talking about it.
I enjoyed chatting about that with you, even though I was definitely feeling a bit this week for the first 2 episodes. Tonight's really, really helped.
It was Sally and Sharon that.
Sally Ann and Tracy.
I get so confused.
But yeah, the quick resolution to Sam and Ivan. The women
Sam in a van.
being scared of a mouse. The
Falling
low
over in a
stakes
shop.
Evelyn and Bernie stuff. It was all just kind of like whatever. But
I know, but you've got to have these things in it.
yeah, I
and,
know.
You know, and much fodder has been made of these seemingly innocuous, harmless stories in the past. You know, there are legendary scenes of things that are completely pointless in the grand scheme of things that have gone down in Coronation Street history, but none of these have, because I don't think that they were very strong.
I'm going to give this week three Harveys with an H out of 5, I think. What about you?
I'm gonna give it 2.5.
Oh, 2.5. Okay.
Cappuccinos in a glass cup made from a compostable pod.
Lovely. Okay.
And that, can I just say that they're Tyrone and Alina are making a big deal out of the fact that they got an espresso machine. Like, you can get one of those for £1.
I sometimes wish that I like coffee. Whenever you have your little coffees out of your Nespresso machine, it's just like so easy. You put a neat little pod in and
it goes.
Yeah, I just don't like coffee. I like coffee chocolate. I like coffee
I
ice
hate coffee
cream.
chocolate, and I hate anything
But I
cold
don't like
coffee.
drinking a cup of coffee. I like my frappuccinos.
Yeah, you like coffee ice cream.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Well, I will say that I've never had a coffee that tasted as good as it smells. But
I do like the smell of coffee as well.
Monmouth Coffee in London, in that market, Borough Market, it's the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my whole life. I keep thinking about it. I went to London like this time last year. No, back in March it was.
It was literally days before
Days
lockdown.
before
wasn't it?
lockdown, when everybody was talking about it, and I was like, I'm never going to get a chance to go to London again because everyone's going to die of the plague. And I went there, and I went to Borough Market, and I had chorizo in a bun and a lovely coffee, and it was just bliss.
It will happen again.
I'm sure it will.
Character of the week, Bradders. Obviously, gotta be Jenny.
Sorry, but
when I was watching Monday and Wednesday's
Beardo
episode,
Van Man is now been in it 2 weeks on a trot,
you
and
can't
I
go
think
to Beardo Van Man. Come on. Not when Jenny Bradley Connor played. She's going to be Bradley again at some point, isn't she? When
Yeah,
she
I
played
think it's
such a
not gonna be
blinder, she
very
was
long.
fantastic. She was right on form. That is exactly Jenny, how I want. Standing there, she had a great green dress on. She was there with her arms folded.
Yep.
The death stares were flying thick and fast.
it was Detective Jenny Vengeance.
Yeah.
On the case.
I loved it. I really, really loved it this week. So without a shadow of doubt, she was my character of the week.
Absolutely agree with you. I mean, Beardo Van Man.
Sorry, there's a new ginger
I don't
in town.
even know what his name is, so it'd be rude to give him it twice in a row. Yeah, she was
If you
fantastic.
give it him again, then that means Pedo Van Man is no longer, the Van Man.
Of choice.
No.
No, I think she was fantastic, like you said. Really great watching her in those scenes and seeing her like the.
I just like it. I liked it when she kind of was realising, when she was smelling a rat, when she was telling her that, when she was gritting her teeth through the oh, you're staying, are you?
Yeah.
I just loved that she had a.
I liked her having a
bone.
mission finally.
It was a mission.
That wasn't just get Ronnie in bed.
And and the two foster daughters playing against each other.
That's
very
what we've
natural.
been hoping for. Yeah.
And she brought Rita back in as well through the back door. Lovely.
Rita, I don't know what you're going on about. I'm going home.
Yes. And that's it. That is it.